From Tennessee, from the east to the west, we are talking Cowboys every day. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee.
This is Lambo from Cowboy Zone, coming to you out of Johnson City, Tennessee.
All right, guys, thank you for joining. I see everybody starting to come in. You see my guy Lambo was hanging out in the car today. I get on up. We just lost him. Hopefully he'll be able to get back in pretty soon. So while Lambo gets his stuff taken care of, I want to thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Cowboy Zone. Like I said before, I'm Marcus Jones, coming to you from Memphis. And today we're going to talk about undrafted free agents. Kind of touch base. Oh, I see he's back now.
Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. So we're going to try to touch base on these undrafted free agents. I know a lot of people hadn't really talked about them. We just had rookie mini camp, and there was some mention of guys here and there, but of course, because these guys were undrafted, they're not household names, so the average fan wouldn't know anything about them. So we're just going to kind of talk about them a little bit, talk about what their strengths are, what they can bring to the team, and what we think their chances are of making the 55-man roster. I know we're a little early in the season, but you always got to start at some point. Why not start now? So while we get into that, hey Lambo, real quick, go in the comments and send people shouts out while I share this.
All right, let me try to do this without exiting. Where I'm on the cell phone, it's all crazy looking.
Oh, you can't see the comments?
I can, but it takes me completely off the screen to a different screen. Sorry, but I can read them, but I don't know if it'll let me put them on. I can't put them on there like I used to.
You don't have to. I'll put them up there. Just
all right. What's up, Jeff? What's up, Philip? Nice to see you guys in here. What up, Eric?
Haven't seen Philip in a while, man. Thank you for tuning back in.
Definitely. All right, cool. I didn't exit myself out that time.
All right. All right, Mendoza, thank you as always for joining. Eric Berger, thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys got to talk about tomorrow on your podcast, Cowboys Uncensored. Lamar, thank you for tuning in. As always, appreciate your support. So we got Professor O, Matt Owen, joining us in about 30 minutes. And he says he's going to give us a full breakdown of these undrafted guys. I've kind of looked through them myself. So before we get into the undrafted guys, Lambo and I thought we would go back and recap the day 3 guys. Because really, when you look at a team, the day 3 guys and the undrafted guys are all kind of in that same area where nobody's really guaranteed anything. And the teams are really just picking these guys based off of traits. So the only difference between day 3 guys and undrafted guys are the team really wants to make sure they can get these guys in camp without having to compete for them in undrafted free agency. So we didn't get to hear my guy Lambo talk about some of the day 3 guys the last time we did the show. So I thought we'd take these first 20 or 30 minutes or so just to kind of do a recap of all the guys who were chosen on day 3 and get Lambo's thoughts on them. All right, so I know we've had some extensive discussions on quite a few of these guys. So let's start off. And I have round 3 for a couple of these, but they're round 4. So Lambo, first off, let's get your thoughts about the linebacker Jabril Cox from LSU.
Gabriel Cox. I don't think there was a fan in the entire fan base that wasn't happy about this pick. And it should have said round 3, so you might as well just leave that up there because that's when he should have been drafted.
Exactly.
That's a guy that honestly, if you take in the second round, you're not even mad about the pick. Probably you're probably like, okay, that's solid. And in the third round, I felt like it would have been a steal. So in the fourth round, I was ecstatic. So as I said before, I was one of the people that was a little upset with the Nahshon Wright pick. Despite it is good to hear some good things coming out of this rookie minicamp or whatever with him though. But I mean,
Anybody that saw your face on draft day knows you were upset, Lambo.
Yeah, I was upset, and I can't really be too excited about the rumors going on about Wright yet because I mean, look at the quarterbacks they're going against right now. But Jabril Cox was like the saving grace for me because when we drafted him, I was so excited about that because I wanted us to take him with every single pick we had in the third round. I was thinking, okay, Jabril Cox would be nice right here. No, okay. What about right here? No, okay. So to get him in the fourth, I just tell myself, okay, we took him in the third and we took Wright in the fourth, and it makes me feel a lot better about it. But I mean, he's what we're lacking in a lot. I mean, what we thought we was getting from Francis Bernard last year, a linebacker great in pass coverage, and Jabril Cox is going to really help us out in pass coverage. That's one of our, that's going to be a big improvement. We're definitely gonna. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time for a fourth-round pick.
Okay. I won't get into my thoughts about him possibly playing some strong safety because I know that's a hot button issue with a lot of the fans.
That's possible.
But let's just focus on his coverage skills. Lambo, you think he's going to get a lot of playing time in this game?
Well, I'm not going to say like a massive amount, but I think he is going to see the field a decent amount. Unlike what happened with Francis Bernard last year, where we were like, oh, he's great in pass coverage. We need this guy on the field, and we see him like 1 or 2 snaps the entire season. It ain't gonna be that. I think, they'll get him on the field. I mean, we might see. Who knows? We might see Neal at safety more often than we think, and see Cox at will quite often. More often than people were thinking would happen.
And that's one of those situations. I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of those situations where I feel like you can't listen to what the coaches say. You have to look at it with your own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Looking at the safety position, we don't have a lot of guys there. And anybody that's in the comments right now will agree. We were all screaming for them to take a safety at some point in the draft, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And me and Lambo both agreed with this. When they drafted 2 linebackers in the first 4 rounds, that almost assured us that Neal will be playing more safety than linebacker. Because it makes no sense otherwise to take two talented linebackers that high.
All right,
let me go back through the comments real quick. Shane Odom, congratulations on the new addition to the family. Make sure you raise them right, raise them blue with that star. Jill says Nashawn Wright should be a day 3 guy.
Yeah.
And like Lambo said, he kind of switches those 2 guys around to make himself feel better.
Honestly, actually, you know who I really switched on my head? It actually wasn't the Cox pick. It was Simi Fehoko.
Okay.
Because I thought Wright was more of a 5th-round guy. It was a better spot to grab him, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I like Simi too. What?
I do too, and we'll get to that in a minute. Starboy, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your support.
What's up, Starboy?
We got 2/3 of Star Game watching right now with Spoonie joining us from NYC. Thank you for tuning in, as well as Nix. Thank you for joining us for a few minutes. I know you're probably pretty busy at the store, so thank you for kind of dipping your head in and seeing what we got going. Yeah, like Spoonie said, Simi was definitely a late steal. He pretty much only failed because 1, the receiving group was extremely deep this year as always, and 2, he doesn't have a lot of good tape, and it's not his fault. Is more quarterback play than him.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to see him a lot. So let's go ahead and move forward through the draft, and we'll talk about our next 4th-round pick. And I guess this is kind of one of those Freudian slips where I put the round 3 by his name, but he was really a 4, but we consider him like he was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
And that's Josh Ball. Lambo, what do you think about him?
As a player,
let's keep it on the field.
As a player, he's got talent. It wouldn't have been a surprise if he was a 2nd-round pick if he didn't have off the field issues. But that was one of the main reasons, he slid as far as he did. And let's just hopeful that he can come in, contribute. And be a good depth piece.
Yeah.
To this O line. I kind of have to bite my tongue with him a little bit, but I do like his talent, and hopefully he can keep on the straight track and do good for us. He's got talent for sure. So I mean, if he keeps himself out of trouble and things like that, man, you're talking about a killer piece, a depth piece to our O line.
Right. I personally feel like he comes in by the time the season starts, and he's our swing tackle.
Yeah.
I think he makes Brandon Knight able to be more of a backup guard, which I think is more of his natural position, and I'm sure Lambo will come back soon. I think he allows us to put Brandon Knight back at guard, which is his natural position, and I also think he's going to come in and play better than Terrence Steele. And Spooney asked the question, is he the Tyron Smith future replacement? I would lean towards no. I don't think he's a full-time left tackle, but I think if you need a guy to start a game or two at left tackle, he may be our best option. Now, if Lyle Collins starts to slip and we got to make some decisions at right tackle, I could see him being a future right tackle replacement because like Jeff says, he loves the ball tape, and Ball's one of those nasty guys who doesn't give up a lot of sacks, but he's a little bit of a lumbering stomper guy just because he's so big. He moves a little like a giant, and I don't think that can hold up at the left tackle spot for a full season. Eric Berger says, do I got him over Naseki? Right now, I don't, but I feel like by the time we get to the regular season, he may be. Because Naseki's 38 years old, doesn't have a lot of starting experience. I think from a talent standpoint right now, I think he has them. And if he gets a chance to prove it, I think he will. Yeah, and Jeff says, hey, we won't get to see grow on Steele. Steele shouldn't have played last year, Jeff. That's not a knock on Steele. That's just he was an undrafted free agent, just like the guys we're bringing in now. He should have been a red shirt year. He still needs a red shirt year. He pretty much showed us his strength was lacking and his awareness was lacking. He wasn't ready for NFL level competition. Sadiqa Charles, thank you for tuning in. I saw you subscribed last night. So thank you for tuning in for a few minutes. Be sure to keep coming in the comments, letting us know your thoughts. Got Beard Gang in the building. Brian, thank you for joining us as always.
What's up, man?
And we got Joe tuning in all the way over from Italy. So as always, we definitely appreciate your support. And since I mentioned that, guys, before Matt gets in, make sure you like this. I see we only got one like on Facebook. So make sure everybody who's watching right now, make sure you like it wherever you are. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. We got them scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And also make sure you share this if you're on Facebook. Share it to your personal page. Share it to your favorite page. We're going to do a lot of undrafted free agent talk soon. A lot of people have no clue about these guys that we have other than highlight clips. And myself and Lambo and Professor O are going to do a full breakdown on all these guys you see at the bottom of the screen right here. All right, Lambo, we're at 7:50. I know you got to dip out a little bit early. Let me go ahead and go real quick through the rest of the day 3 guys.
Yeah, and sorry about the whole car thing, everybody. My kids lost my webcam, and the house is so loud right now. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go sit in the minivan, so y'all don't have to hear screaming kids the entire time.
Yeah. So if you guys have comments or questions, make sure you put them in the comments so I can hit on them because you guys always come with it with the comments. So now let's go to everybody's favorite player, the guy we all kind of feel like was the steal of the draft. And that was in the 5th round, Simi Fehoko, wide receiver from the University of Stanford. Definitely one of my favorite receivers in this draft from a talent standpoint. I talk to you guys all the time about this before I let Lambo go. I don't look at 40 times as much for certain players. If one guy runs a 4.4 and one guy runs a 4.5, I'm kind of okay with that. I look at 3-cone. This kid is 220 and his 3-cone is like a 6'9", 6'8" something. That's ridiculous. That lets me know he can create separation for a big guy. Lambo, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, definitely. For a big dude, he's fast. I think he ran like a 4.39 at 6'4", 222. And just another thing I like about him, he seems to not only be a great athlete, but he seems to have a great character about him as a person as well. Like everything I've seen on him, he just seems like a stand-up dude, like someone that's really going to contribute to the locker room as well, on top of the talent he has. And he is adapted very quickly to being I think he's pretty much considering himself a Texan now. It seems like if you've been following all of his tweets, man, he's jumping right into the Texas barbecue, and he went out and said, "I gotta have a truck. I'm in Texas now. Bought him a new truck." He seems like a cool dude though, and it's funny because like as soon as we drafted him, I was trying to watch anything and everything I could find on him. And one of the first things that stood out to me was him lining up against Nashawn Wright.
Right.
And Nashawn Wright tried to jam him on the line and completely missed, which also shows how quick Simi is off the line. And Simi just, I mean, had him by 5 yards all the way down the field.
Yeah.
And it would have been 5 yards of separation on that touchdown catch had it not been an underthrown ball. Let Wright get back into play, but it kind of just showed his long speed as well.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that, to have a 6'4" guy that can stretch the field like that.
And he's a hand catcher, which I love.
The question is, who is out, Cedric Wilson or Noah Brown? Because I think Simi makes his team, and I'm leaning towards Cedric possibly being out.
Yeah. And at some point in the next week, I'm going to make a video about the importance of special teams, because I say this all the time, and I say it every year. I have to make this argument with people about why Noah Brown's not going anywhere. So at some point in the next week, I promise I'm going to go live again, and I'm going to do a full breakdown of the importance of special teams and why guys like Dorrance Armstrong and Noah Brown and possibly Darian Thompson, guys like that, are always going to stick around. Because I see Spoonie was one of the main ones I argued with last year about Noah Brown.
I think it's Cedric. Noah just brings too much on special teams.
I agree.
And he's such a great blocker as well.
And on top of that, Simi's not in direct competition with Noah Brown because they're two different players. We know what Noah Brown is. He's your fifth wide receiver. He's one of your core special teams guys. Simi's going to be an inside-outside guy who can run routes, who can play outside, who can get downfield. That's a direct competition to Cedric Wilson. And plus, Cedric Wilson's only contribution to special teams is fair catching. Now, my quick question. Cedric Wilson has been in the league 4 years, and he's been our punt returner for all 4 years. How many returns do you think he has? Like, how many times do you think he returned the ball on a punt? 4 years.
Sad thing is I don't ever remember. I can't even think back to a time where I got excited about a return from him. I don't know, a handful.
It's a handful. He's been in the league 4 years, and I believe he only has 13 returns.
Yeah.
And only one of them went for more than 10 yards. And this is the guy people say is secure because he's a punt returner. Doesn't make sense. And on top of that, him and Noah Brown have the same amount of catches for their career. So you can't use that argument that Cedric is so important to our offense and they have the same amount of catches.
Yeah.
It's one of those pet peeves I have with people. I mean, Noah Brown could get cut, but it's not as wide of a gap as people think it is. All right. Eric Berger says he thinks people have said in Noah Simi because of special teams. I have a feeling Simi will be better than them on special teams. I mean, he can't be worse than Cedric, because all he does is fair catch. I would have to go back and look at Simi and see if he plays special teams, because one thing we forget, if you look at Noah Brown in college, he was basically the same thing he was in NFL. He was just a big receiver, played out wide, at Ohio State. Now remember, he was at wide receiver almost Ohio State. He didn't touch the field a lot. He played special teams all through college. Semi was the number one receiver for a team in college. Those guys don't play special teams much. It's a completely different ball game when you're the big man on campus. He may not have played special teams, and most people think kick return, punt return. Special teams is more than that. So don't think that Semi can just come in and know how to run down the field on punt coverage or blocking. That's a gift that everybody doesn't have.
Yep, I agree.
All right, cool. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. I promise I won't talk about Zeke today. And Jeff says, do we have a punt return on the team? I mean, right now, Cedric Wilson's been the only returner. And when they want to actually do a return, they bring in CD Lamb.
Yeah.
Boss Man Fat has some special teams return ability. Jordan Lewis has some punt return ability. If they don't rely on him as much on the defense, they may put him back there again. But I think he's going to be an integral part of special teams. And a couple of these undrafted guys have some punt return ability too. So one of them may sneak on the 53 because of that. And Mendoza talked about one of them, Eagles. Watch out for him. He has some return capabilities despite his big size. All right. So when we get to undrafted free agents, it's going to be interesting because we brought a lot of receivers in. And
one of them I would like for Vasher.
Yeah. I like him too. And everybody talks about they think he's going to make the team. It's a deep room. It's a deep room. That's all I'm going to say.
I like him, but I don't think he's going to make the team. I remember I brought him up on one of our shows months ago.
You did.
And honestly, I didn't know a lot about him at the time. He was just a guy that popped up on tape to me, and I started watching a little bit on him because of his size and wingspan and everything. But it's kind of crazy we end up getting him. I hope we can get him back on the practice squad. I hope he don't end up somewhere else because I would like to see them develop him.
Yeah. And Mendoza makes a great point about Ohio State. When you play for a team like Ohio State or Clemson or Alabama, the competition is so tough. Guys are almost required to be good special teamers to even touch the field until the next man in front of them graduates or goes to the league.
That's a good point.
And Mendoza, you said Semi didn't look look good on this past weekend on special teams. To be honest, I haven't read any minicamp stuff. I just consider it like NFL orientation. So I don't take too much stock in what happens on rookie minicamp. But if you got something, please send it to me so I can see it. Because I promise you, I haven't looked up a single thing.
I haven't either.
Minicamp. Yeah, I won't even think about it until we get to the OTAs when the actual team gets in. And that's when you have an idea of where these young guys match up. Because I heard something about Micah Parsons said he'll play middle and he'll play outside. But until Van Der Esch and Jalen are there, we have no clue what he's going to do. Shane Odom asked a great question. Do we think Simi may take plays away from Gallup? I mean, we got to get him on the team first, honestly.
Yeah.
But historically, our number 4 receivers rarely catch over 20 balls a year.
Yeah, I mean, you might see something eventually at some point in the year that excites you. You might have one game with like 3 catches, like 75 yards or something, and then that's it.
Basically what Cedric Wilson did last year and what Devin Smith did the year before.
Right. That's what it'll be.
Yeah.
Much. You might have one of those Tavon Austin catches.
Right.
All the way down the field.
And Tavon Austin the year before that. I've been having this Noah Brown debate. You just named every guy I have the Noah Brown debate with every year. First it was Tavon and Javier Johnson. Then it was Devin Smith. And then and now it's Simi and Cedric Wilson. All right, so let's keep going through. We're at 8:01. Professor should be joining us pretty soon. And we go to the 6th round, and we go to the big boy. Another fan favorite, Quentin Bohanna, the big D tackle, representing Tennessee from Memphis, played for the University of Kentucky in college. Lambo, we haven't talked at all about this guy. I don't think we had a chance to really discuss on the day of the draft. What do you think about Bohanna and his chances of making the team?
I hope he makes the team because we've been wanting a guy that can really fit into that one tech spot, like a true one tech that can pretty much eat up blocks and let those linebackers run free. So hopefully he can provide that. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know a whole lot about him before he was picked.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen on him, I do think he could be someone that could come in and contribute and helping especially in the run game.
Yeah.
As far as eating up them blocks and letting our linebackers run free. At least I hope so. I've been following him on Twitter since we drafted him. Seems like a cool guy. I do hope he makes the team. Don't know a ton about him though.
Yeah. Yeah, I just found out I know quite a few people that are related to him. So hopefully I can
Really?
I can set that up. Just looking on Facebook, I see a lot of my friends are saying congratulations, Big Q. So maybe I can get one of them to get to him and we can get him on the show at some point.
Man, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So that's my next project. Now, I see we got a couple of comments and some people are saying Bohanna will make the team. James Gary, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. I got our social medias at the bottom of the screen. So, Lambo, what do you think are his chances of making the team? Like, honestly.
Well, I guess it comes down to how many interior defensive linemen you think is going to be on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to, let's see, do the math game real quick. Urban's not going anywhere. At least I hope not.
Let's say we keep 5 D tackles. So we'll start with that.
Okay.
Urban, like you said, he's secure, I think.
Yeah, such a good run defender last season, and that was a weakness of ours. I just can't see any reason why he wouldn't be on the team. Urban, Gallimore.
Okay.
Odigizua.
Okay.
Hill.
Okay. Now Mendoza says he only thinks 4 are gonna make it. So if we go based off of Mendoza, which one of those 4 is gone? To put Bohanna in.
Man, I think 5.
Okay. Now,
follow-up question. It would probably be Hill if that was the case, but
because you're right. That would be his direct competition. But then follow-up question. Now, let's say we keep 5. That means we gotta go in at defensive end. So now you got D-Law, you got Golston, you got Gregory, and Armstrong, Anai. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm missing 2 guys.
I'm having a brain fart.
I know.
But you can go ahead and count Armstrong out.
See, I don't know. I was looking up the stats. Armstrong plays 65% of all the special team snaps. That's a lot to replace.
Yeah, that's true.
But if we got some guys who can replace him, like, I forgot about Vasher. That's the one I was thinking about.
Vasher, yeah. True.
Yeah. And Looney talks about Carter, the guy we got in undrafted free agency last year. He may come in and fit. And thank you, James.
Rondell.
So now you're looking at, is Basham gone? Armstrong, Anai. I don't know what Carter's chances are, but he's there. So I guess it really depends on the scheme.
Yeah. I mean, it'll probably come down to, honestly, in my opinion, Armstrong or Basham, but because he's not, obviously we just signed him, but he's not a lock to make the team still. So
yeah, I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but and how can I forget about my guy Azure Kamara? Now that's a guy I consider more linebacker than the end of Mendoza. I know you said you have Basham listed as an end, But Kamara's like 6'4", 230, runs a 4.5. And he played everything in college at Kansas. James Gary, I agree. I think it's between Basham and Golston as your base right defensive end. And then Gregory is going to be like a designated pass rusher type guy. So Bohanna, he has a shot, but it's going to be an uphill battle. And then we still have Hamilton, I believe, Justin Hamilton. You never know. His light switch may come on during camp, and he may come in and make some noise in a new scheme. It's a lot of options there. I don't think just because he's the only big boy that guarantees him a spot. I just want to put that out there. Because I talked about this on draft day. Kind of situation. One of these things is not like the other. When he's different than everybody else, that means either they have a designated role for him or they have a theme that they like and he's the odd man out because he doesn't fit. I said the same thing about Woods on draft day, and I told everybody it's going to be some hard cuts made that people are not going to like.
Yeah.
And we also forgot about my guy Carlos Watkins from Houston that we signed. Nobody really knows him, but he has the traits. He's 6'4". He's right at 300 pounds. He's got 35-inch arms. He's a penetrator. Mm-hmm. He's almost a mirror image of Osa.
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about, guys, when you talk about Bohanna. Mendoza says Woods was my surprise cut. I knew it would be Woods or Hill just because, like I said, they didn't fit the criteria. So it's going to be some interesting battles in camp. I'm interested to see who they put, and I'm glad we got real camp this year and preseason because now we get to see who's first string, second string, third team, first team, second team, third team, because last year was a lot of speculation on who was where. And Antonio Lawrence talks about the new CBA rule. The rule was actually in place last year, and that rule is more for practice squad guys where you can bring up two guys and take them back down. But yeah, you're right. It's 55 men this year. Okay, so let's keep going. We're at 8:09. So Professor O will probably be joining us soon so we can get into this undrafted free agent talk. Again, guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe. And keep these great comments coming in as well because you guys really fuel the show with your fan knowledge. And Mendoza talks about the 4 games we get to work the kinks out. I'm going to be paying attention to preseason more than I've ever paid attention to it before, honestly. I don't know about you, Lambo.
I can't wait. I can't wait, man. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be. I mean, I probably say that every year that I'm gonna focus on it more just because I'm so excited. But when it comes down to it, I'm not gonna miss a snap, just like I didn't last year or the year before. I got to see every single snap.
But for me personally, in years past, when I looked at the team, and thank you for the shouts out, Mendoza, we appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
When I look at the team, like if I go back to past 7 years before, I already knew who the starting 11 were on offense and defense. I had a very good idea who the backups were. The only thing I was really watching in years past was, is my pet cat going to make the roster?
Right.
Or is my favorite player from Clemson or Missouri or UCLA going to make the team because I follow those teams? This year, I have no clue outside of D-Law, who's starting anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Other than D-Law and Diggs, I don't know what's going to happen at defensive line, linebacker, or secondary.
Yeah, I was going to say secondary would be fun to watch as well, just to see how everything plays out.
Exactly.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Anthony Brown, like we've talked about, because, I mean, Jordan Lewis just got a 3-year deal. We just drafted a 2nd-round corner and a 3rd-round corner.
Right.
I mean, so where does Brown fit in? So it'd be interesting.
And it comes, like we talk about all the time, it comes down to money and it comes down to the numbers game.
Mhm.
We can't go deep at every position. You got to cut it off at some point somewhere. And Reggie Robinson, they just said they're going to move him back to corner, which was a smart move to do.
Yeah.
But you throw him back in that mix, now you've got what, 4 corners who are first or second year players on rookie deals. Then you got Goodwin, who's far and away your best special teams guy. So his spot is secure. Then you got Anthony Brown that just got the big contract. That's 6 corners.
You know,
Yeah, go ahead.
Reggie Robinson, the whole Reggie Robinson thing still makes me upset that we haven't really got a chance to see him, especially like Big Game James took the words right out of my mouth, like exactly what I was thinking when he was saying that okay, as bad as we were doing last year, why not at least get him in there towards the end of the season and see what he's got, just so we know.
Right.
Like, I feel like the guy needs a chance. Like, just give him a chance. But you draft a project corner that's not as athletic as Reggie Robinson is.
Right.
So we got 2 project corners now, and you just took one in the 3rd round that isn't even as near as athletic as a Reggie Robinson is. Near.
I didn't even count right when I just counted 6.
Yeah.
And
Reggie Robinson could be the next Ward for us. That's what I feel like is going to happen. He's going to slip through the cracks. He ain't going to get his fair shake, and he's going to go start for somebody. And we're going to be like, we really let Reggie Robinson just go start for another team.
Right.
Ball out. So, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm just saying I like to see what he has at least, man, and some NFL action.
And I just named 6 receivers who I feel like are pretty much secure. We still haven't talked about Kennedy yet.
Oh, yeah.
James
he opted
Gary
out last year.
Kennedy. He opted out. Very talented guy, young guy, special teams guy. Cheap guy.
It's a good problem to have. We have a lot of competition at corners, so I'm confident that we'll have a pretty solid group out there.
Right. Unless Anthony Brown just comes in and just wows everybody and takes one of those top 2 spots, I don't see how financially or from a number standpoint we can keep him on the team. Just plain and simple. I'm sure Lambo will come back. It looks like he hit a button by mistake. But yeah, and then we talk about this guy who's our next guy we're going to talk about. And James Gary, thank you. Yeah, you bringing great comments, man. Guys like you who fuel the conversations on the screen with us. Shane Odom says his focus is the preseason to see how the defense as a whole responds. Definitely, we got a lot of storylines to look at. Unlike last year where everything was all smoke and mirrors and you hear so-and-so looks amazing and we couldn't see it for ourselves. This year, they're pulling the curtain back. Brian says he's excited for the first and last preseason game. I guess you're more interested in the starters than the backups. I can see that as well. Well, the last preseason game. So you're more interested in the backups than the starters. So yeah, definitely. Mendoza already kind of given us his early 53-man roster projection. And we'll probably get to that show first or second week in June, where we do our 53-man roster going into camp. So that's coming pretty soon. 7, 14, 18, 22, 26, 53. Yeah. 26, 29. Yeah, that's about 26 is what they normally keep. I don't think they'll go that thin at defensive end on Mendoza. I think they're going to have to keep at least 5. So if they do, then you got to cut a linebacker or a corner. But that's a whole nother show. So make sure you remember those thoughts, Mendoza, because in about 3 weeks, we're going to come right back to this and we're going to do a full 53-man roster breakdown on who we think stays, goes, and why. All right, so we were just doing a lot of corner talk. So let's go to our next day 3 guy in Lambeau. If you can hold on for another 10 minutes or so, we should be done soon. Israel Mukwamu, South Carolina. So first of all, Lambeau, what are your thoughts on him? And second of all, they said they're going to try him at safety, but do you think they're telling the truth? You think he's going to play more corner or safety?
Man, I don't know. This is another dude I didn't know too much about, but when I go back and watch him, I love the player that I see. I love the person as well. Man, you just can't beat those like feel good stories. And when you watch him when he was selected by the Cowboys, man, it warmed my heart. But he seems like a great dude. 6'4". We got the 2 tallest corners in the entire draft, and him and Nashawn Wright, which is kind of funny. So that shows you right there what they're trying to do. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see as far as if he sticks at safety or if they want to move him back to corner. There's just so much competition right now at corner. I don't feel like there's any room for him to make this roster as a cornerback. So it's going to have to be as a safety. If not, then we're hoping to get him back on the practice squad.
Yeah. Eric Berger just made the point about who's buying Izzy a free safety. I mean, watching him play in college, I feel like he's probably a better corner in a cover 3 scheme. But like Lambeau said, we just named 9 corners.
I mean, there's no room.
There's no room if you want to keep them. So yeah, definitely. That may just be the location he has to go in. I'm still convinced we're going to play a lot of big nickel based on what we've done. If he does play corner, I expect him to be more of an inside guy, and I think the smaller, shifty guys are going to be more outside. But you just never know. Eric Berger talks about center field has the most drama around it, at least for the fan base. I mean, when we go 10 years without drafting a safety in the top 2 rounds, that's always going to put a target on the back of that position. That just stands out every year. Everybody wants a safety, and every year we don't get one, or we draft a corner and convert them to safety. And this is pretty much more of the same. So, Lambeau, before we let you go, we got one more guy to talk about. Mukwamu. If they keep him at safety like we think, what do you think are his chances of making the team?
Well, I think he would have obviously he has a way higher chance than he would if he was playing cornerback. We don't have the most talented safety room. I mean, I think he's got a decent chance. If I had to put it at percentage numbers, I'd probably give him like a 30% chance.
Okay.
That's not necessarily extremely hopeful, but
yeah.
I mean, Thompson.
He's a 7th round guy, so I mean, how much really?
Yeah, you can't. But I mean, I'd probably rather him make it as a project safety over having Darian Thompson back there. I mean, you already know what you're getting out of Thompson. At least this guy still has the potential. See what we can get with him. And avoid losing him if we can't get him back to the practice squad.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is where preseason is going to be so valuable because last year we were able to stash a bunch of guys on the practice squad who most of us thought had no shots, like a Francis Bernard, because nobody got to see them playing preseason. This year, all these long arm, tall, athletic guys that we drafted, all of them are going to be seen in preseason. So people may not like Nashawn Wright, but if he plays in one game and plays well, and some people think, hey, maybe there's a chance we could stash a 3rd round pick on practice squad because nobody liked him. One game eliminates all that. We talk about Semi. If Semi was on last year's team, there's not a doubt in my mind we could stash him on the practice squad just because he was a late round pick that didn't have a lot of college experience. But this year, if we're projecting him to be our number 4 receiver, that means in the 4th preseason game, he's going to be our starter with Garrett Gilbert or whoever our backup quarterback is. He's going to be pretty much the go-to guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the same situation if he goes out there and gets eight catches in week 4. And I see the comments are still going. I see we got our special guest coming in right on time. Let me go through a couple of these comments before I bring them in. Mendoza says he may have to take the Chauncey route, ask the cornerback coach to let him get some safety reps, and he and R2 just swap. Jeff coming in with KZ will be cut. He better not be on PUP. Jeff, me and you had this conversation earlier. His contract dictates he has no guarantees. And Shane Odom asked a question. With all these tall corners, if we play with a smaller safety, do you think this could be a problem? The way the cover 3 scheme that I think we're going to run looks, I'm not concerned about having short guys on the outside. Because the cover 3 guys, in my opinion, ball skills and athleticism are more important than height. I know we look at the Seattle blueprint and they had a bunch of tall guys at corner. I don't think you have to have tall guys at corner in this game. You need guys who can press and release and get in their sets. So I'm not as concerned about that. Mendoza says he wonders if R2 can push out Goodwin. And then Jeff immediately comes back with not a chance. I think I agree with you, Jeff. Goodwin is way too important to special teams. And Bones loves him. And that's 1/3 of our team. And Goodwin had the most special team snaps by a wide margin. I think he had 70% of special team snaps. The next closest guy may have been like 55. And Mendoza says he wants to see Wright get stronger, work on their press. I think it's going to be a red shirt year for him, so I definitely agree with that. Charlie Moffitt joining us the second half of Cowboys Uncensored, showing us why they got the name Cowboys Uncensored. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think you guys are going live tomorrow at noon. So if that's true, put it in the comments and let me know so I can put it on the screen. Charlie Moffitt, Eric Berger, 2 knowledgeable guys.
What up, motherfuckers?
Yeah, you can see it in the comments every week. They know the stuff, and you see why they call the Cowboys Uncensored. So check those guys out as well. All right, so I see we got our special guest joining us right now. So before Lambo gets out of here, let me go ahead and introduce this guy. Guy I've been following for quite a while on social media. Very knowledgeable guy. Knows his stuff when it comes to the Cowboys. He's one of those fans that understands the team and personnel and finance and schemes. He is an all-around football guy. And I'm definitely honored to be able to get him on the show tonight. So, guys, we got the professor joining us. Professor O, man, what's up?
What's up, everyone? Sorry I'm joining late. I have 2 little kids, and we actually have one on the way next Monday, so I had to get the kids to sleep, helping the wife out with that. So, yeah, I'm on. I'm excited to be on with you guys.
Oh, man, no problem.
Well, congrats, man.
Thank you. Yeah, boy number 3.
I know exactly where you're coming from. The reason I'm sitting in a minivan outside in the dark right now is because I have 4 kids under the age of 7, and they're acting crazy inside right now. So I had to come out to the minivan.
Makes sense.
Yes,
Trying out a new camera, so I apologize if it looks a little bit.
I was about to say
it's like trying to like auto adjust for some reason.
What kind of camera did you get?
Honestly, I don't know. It's a webcam from Amazon, and it has like a built-in light, which my other one didn't, which is nice, but it's like focusing. It's like having issues focusing. So
yeah, what you got to do is just get another light and put it on top of your computer. It'll take care of all that. That's what I do.
Yeah, so I'll have to do that next time.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm excited to be on. So I got to hear a little bit of what you guys are talking about, and it should be fun, man. Should be a fun show.
Definitely. So before you came on, we kind of talked about the day 3 guys just because they're all at the same level as the undrafted guys. And my guy Lambo has to get out in a minute, so I wanted to get his thoughts on the day 3 guys before we let them out. And
sounds good.
Yeah, so just be me and you talking undrafted guys. So before we go, Lambo, we got one more day 3 guy to talk about, and I get your opinion on this. And Professor O, while we got you here, I get yours as well. And that is the big guard / center / tackle from Wisconsin at Farniok. Lambo, before you go, let me get your thoughts on him first.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. I didn't know nothing about the dude when we drafted him. I didn't get that deep into the position, but does that say University of Wisconsin on the under his name?
Yes, it should be Nebraska. My mistake.
It's all right. I thought I was like, hold up, but yeah, he looked the part, and obviously we've done a pretty good job finding some gems when it comes to the depth pieces on our O line. And I mean, you look at guys like Brandon Knight and Terrence Steele, and plenty more to go along with that.
Mitch
there's no reason to think that a dude like him can't come in here and sneak in and make this roster as a depth piece, especially with the ability to play tackle and guard. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out with this O line, man. There's this with all these players coming back from injury as well. I mean, we have a good problem to have. We're gonna have a lot of depth on the O line and a lot of good battles.
All right, Professor O, let me get your thoughts on Matt Farniok before we go to the undrafted guys.
Right. No, I agree with what Lambo said. The position flex is going to be his key to making the roster. I don't think he's a guy that's going to develop into a starting guard in the league, but being that swing interior offensive lineman that can play left, right, or center is going to, definitely help his cause. He's it's kind of funny. Lambo mentioned that he's a Nebraska guy. He does play kind of like a Wisconsin offensive lineman. So I can see how that can get mixed up. He is, that classic swing guard. So he's going to be a guy like a Joe Looney, for instance, that can play either, and Looney's not re-signed. So maybe he's somebody we revisit as training camp gets closer, but he gives you that potential that he could develop into an interior offensive lineman that starts. But if you look at our interior offensive line group, it's not very deep and it's not super strong. So he's a guy that, could make some waves if he has a good training camp.
Yeah.
Mendoza is always right on it with exactly what's about to be said. Right as you said that, he typed the same thing.
Right. Mendoza's the man. Mendoza's awesome.
Yeah. I've been talking about this since January. Our center position frightens me. We don't have a guy who's a backup who's played in NFL at that position. And Tyler B now has 3 years of injuries that we have to look at going back to college.
That's where I think McGovern kind of comes into play too, because he has that ability to play center and guard. But the danger is if he plays center because you have an injury at two spots, what happens at guard? Right. So that's where the dynamic kind of gets scary. Yeah,
and we haven't seen him play center in the NFL either. So that's something else you got to remember.
Right.
So Professor O, what do you think are Matt's chances of getting a spot just at the center position alone?
Pretty solid. We don't have a lot of depth there. So, I mean, he has a pretty decent chance to make the roster, especially if he, shows that he can hold up against interior defensive linemen. And that's where, the matchup at training camp of, him going against Bohanna or Osa or somebody like that, if he can hold his own and, not give up ground, he has a pretty decent chance to make the roster just because we don't have a lot of depth there. Right. And, again, if he struggles, that's where I think you give Joe Looney a call and see if he's available, so I know you can bring him back. But I think that's where you try to plug and play the younger, cheaper option. We all heard the press conferences. Stephen Jones made it abundantly clear that as much cap space as you can save by these draft picks, that's the route he wants to go. So, he's going to get every chance to get that interior swing guard center roster spot locked up. And if he can't, then you revisit a Joe Looney.
Yeah. My concern with him is watching him play. He lets guys get into his chest a little bit too much for his size.
Right.
And we got a bunch of long arm guys who live and die off arm length and getting that push. So hopefully I think we're gonna find out pretty quick, can he play in NFL at center? Because all of our guys make their money off their length. And that was the one thing that gave him problems in college.
Right.
So now, boy, you got to get out of here. You got a few more minutes.
Yeah, unfortunately, until I get out of this factory position that has me getting up at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
I gotta head out.
All right, man. Well, before you go, let the people know where they can find you at.
Sorry guys for dipping out so soon, man. But y'all can find me at Cowboys Y'all that's at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon, and Cowboys Y'all 88 at Instagram. And like me and Marcus always say, just please subscribe to both pages. We really appreciate you guys. And sorry again for tuning out early, guys. But and Professor O, is good getting to talk to you briefly, man. And hopefully,
hopefully next time I can join earlier, we can spend more time. But yeah, take care of this family, take care of those kids, and get some rest. You can work tomorrow, and I'll join earlier next time.
No problem. And congrats again as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lambo. I appreciate you joining.
All right, y'all have a good one, man.
You too.
See y'all.
All right. So now, before we get started, guys, make sure you like this. Make sure you share it. My guy, Professor O, and I are about to go through all these undrafted free agents, give you our thoughts on how they performed, where they fit on this team, what their strengths are, and if we think they can take a roster spot. Because historically, we have one or two guys from our undrafted free agent list who make the team and become major contributors. So hopefully this year is the same thing. We got a lot of high attribute guys. We got a lot of good potential. So let's go into it. Let's get into it with these guys. And everybody, keep bringing those comments. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you know more about these guys than we do, let us know. You guys are the best fans on social media. You guys always bring it with your comments. So let's keep the train rolling. And I see Spoonie still here hanging with us. And he talked about the first guy. So I guess we'll start here first. And we'll go with Tyler Coyle, linebacker / safety. Now, you see it says University of Iowa here, but he was pretty much non-existent there. Everything I watched on him was from the University of Connecticut. So, Professor O, start us off. What do you think about this guy?
Yeah, so this is our man Spoonie's one of his favorite pet cats. Quick correction. So he went to UConn and then transferred to Purdue. He didn't go to Iowa. So I'll just throw that out there real quick.
Thank you.
So a little bit about him. He has good size, really, really good speed. Speed's probably the most exciting element about him.
Yeah.
So he's kind of an interesting guy. We'll kind of go through the progression. So he's recruited from UConn, played safety there. He was a 3-year starter. Mm-hmm. Then he transferred to Purdue, and Purdue brought him in as a hybrid linebacker safety. Yeah. So think maybe like Keanu Neal usage, like that's kind of where they were projecting him. And then Purdue's season got cut short due to COVID. So he only played 4 games there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a small sample size. So you really have to kind of go back to the 2019, 2018 film to get a better feel for him.
Right.
The one thing that's going to jump out is his speed. He's a 4.36 guy, and he looks it on tape. Like when you watch him, kind of going back to his high school, I did a little bit more research. He ran a 10.7 100-meter as a senior in high school. So he's legit like a fast guy. He's averaging coverage. He's not going to be super exciting. He's a guy that you absolutely want to stash on the practice squad if you can. And he is a fringe bubble guy who could potentially sneak onto the 53. Yep. And the avenue for that is if KZ starts out on the PUP list. Mm-hmm. If he does, especially with Reggie Robinson moving to cornerback, it opens up a spot where he has a chance to sneak on. I don't know if he's going to stay on the roster long-term for the whole season. I think he'd be a guy that you bring in, play in special teams. And then when KZ's healthy, if assuming he's on PUP list, then you demote him back under the practice squad and hope that he clears waivers. Yeah. He's an exciting prospect. I don't know that he's a long-term starter or a guy that will develop into a starter, but I think he could be a special teams demon who can play. Like, I don't want to say Jeff Heath because I know how fans kind of react. He's polarizing, but he could be that Jeff Heath type. He could be that Jeff Heath type of guy where, he can start as needed. You don't want him as a every down starter. 17 games a season, but he can be a fill-in type of guy. And I mean, when you have speed like that, and he's pretty decent size, he's like 6'1", 210 range. And obviously, if they thought about him as linebacker, it means he's a good run stopper. He has that ability. One thing you'll like about him when you watch him is he's quick to diagnose, especially in the run game, and he's a very willing tackler. Again, it's that coverage, and I want to be clear, he's not bad in coverage. He's just kind of he's better in zone than he is in man. But he has the speed that he can make up ground if he gets beat. So that's my thoughts on him. Interested to hear what you have to say.
Boy, Professor O bringing the heat. He didn't save anything for me. Hey, great breakdown. I mean, you hit all the points. Like you said, coverage is a little lacking, and it's because I always check 3-cone for any play.
Right.
His 3-cone was like a 7-1, which for a guy this size and this speed, you expect it to be a lot better. That definitely shows on tape in terms of like his change of direction. But like you said, straight line, he can bring it quickly. And I feel like because of that, he has a chance to steal a spot at that safety position because we're going to need special teams guys, and he brings that speed element, that height, weight, speed that the team likes. On top of that, you talked about his tackling. If I'm not mistaken, he led UConn in tackling his last 2 years. I think he had like 100 tackles one year and like 90 tackles the year before. So when you got a safety who can lead your team in tackles, that either means your defense is awful and he's your last line of defense quite often, or this guy is making plays all over the place. And honestly, from watching him play, I think it's more the latter. He was all over the place. He was quick to diagnose stuff, just like Professor O said, and he was quick to come downhill and make the tackle. Now, one thing I noticed about when he tackles, he has a little bit of that KZ where he dips his head a lot when he tackles. That's a little bit concerning. But if you're getting the guy on the ground the way he is, I can look over that because I know you're bringing that speed and I know you're a willing tackler. So for me personally, I think he has a pretty good shot of making this team. I don't want to put him. I don't want to have Spoonie with another route, whatever his number is going to be. But I think when we get in camp, he's gonna make some noise. And when he was in Purdue, he did play a lot of special teams because I couldn't find anything like defensively, but I just tried to catch him on special teams, and he was doing his thing.
Right. Yeah, and kind of an interesting dynamic on where he could fit in special teams wise. So with his ability to tackle and his speed, you immediately think of a gunner on our team, right? That's the first thing you think of. But because of that athleticism and speed, you could see a guy like Bones Fossil coming up with some type of fake punt look for him to take advantage of it. Think about the fake kick or the kickoff return pass that we did to CJ Goodwin last year. He almost took it to the house, got tripped up on like the 5-yard line. So having a guy like him and Goodwin can give you, kind of elite level gunners on your special teams. So I definitely think he has an avenue. And actually, out of all the guys we're going to talk about, he's the guy that I think has the best chance to make the roster. Right.
I think you put him in direct comparison with a Darian Thompson.
Yeah.
Because they're the same roles. So
he's much cheaper too. So that's going to.
Exactly. He's much cheaper. He's faster. And he can probably give you the same thing on special teams because we don't want to see Thompson on defense. And we probably don't really want to see this kid on defense much either. So it all comes down to price, athleticism, and special teams ability.
Right.
All right. First player, Professor O, is bringing the heat. So let's keep it going. Let's go to a more of a pure linebacker. And let's go to Anthony Hines, linebacker out of A&M. Professor, what are your thoughts on this guy?
So good size, 6'3", 225, 230-ish, pretty solid speed. He's like a 4'6" guy. The thing to keep in mind too is he was heavily, heavily coveted coming out of high school. I think he had like 100 offers, like Bama, Georgia, Florida, USC, Miami, like lots of big schools were after him.
Mm-hmm.
His draft status fell big time by opting out. A lot of coaches made the comment beforehand that we weren't going to hold opt-outs against them. He's one of the guys that not playing last year definitely hurt his draft status.
Right.
Things I like about him, he's super smooth. If you watch him on tape, that's probably the first word that comes to mind is he's smooth. He makes offensive linemen miss. He's able to navigate, free himself up to make plays. He has that sideline to sideline ability. The downside is he over pursues a lot. He's super aggressive and he falls for like every single play action and every single misdirection. So he's a guy that, like, if you watch the Micah Parsons tape and you watch against Memphis where he diagnoses a reverse, blows it up in the backfield, makes a big play, he'll do that, but then he'll also do the other way around where he'll fall for that, run right up there, get his nose in action, and then get beat right behind him. He's a decent coverage guy. He also has a chance to make the roster, especially. It's really going to depend on what this 3-4 looks like. If we're actually going with the 3-4 or if it's a 4-3 under, that's going to change things. But if you go with the 3-4, you're going to have guys like a Luke Gifford, Francis Bernard, those Friends roster guys right there. And he has the ability and upside to beat out either one. It's just going to depend on how deep we go at linebacker. And again, when we talk about 3-4, we have to keep in mind a guy like Randy Gregory is no longer a defensive end. He's an outside linebacker if you're looking at a true 3-4 front.
Yeah.
And again, even if you're talking 25, 30% of the snaps, you're going to be nickel heavily. But yeah, I'm excited about him. I think he actually had the highest guaranteed of all the undrafted free agents we signed, which means they thought the highest of him. And again, I really feel like he's a guy that had he played this year and had relatively the same numbers as the year before, because he was only a 1-year starter. He's probably a guy that you're looking at in like late 4th, early 5th round. So value wise, getting him as an undrafted free agent is exciting. You just have the concerns of he's raw, but that's where a guy like Dan Quinn can hopefully coach him out of that stuff.
Matt, you must have got copies of my notes from watching this, because you hit everything. You got almost word for word what I said.
Okay, you go first next time. We'll do
all right. I don't care. As long as the knowledge gets out there, I don't care who says it first. You're the guest. I'll let you spread the knowledge first, and I'll just come back with whatever you didn't hit on that I can add to. Like you said before, everything you said was 100% accurate. I would have concerns about him in pass protection because, like you said, he doesn't have what I like to call spatial awareness.
Right.
When it comes to what I think we're going to do in this cover 3, he looks kind of lost out there when he's in space, and he bites for every move. That's concerning for a cover 3 linebacker, because his ability to cover his zone is very important. And if he's biting for every move, he's leaving the backside open while that corner's trying to release to get in his set. But going forward, for his size, which is 225, 230, he has a great ability to navigate through the trash and get guys on the ground. He's very physical. He's very smart when it comes to playing in the trenches. He has a leg up on Francis Bernard there, because to me, these guys are two opposites. Like if anybody remembers from last year, I said Francis Bernard was the best cover linebacker in the draft. When it comes to playing in space, he looks like a safety in terms of playing zone. But when it comes to playing in the box, he has a lot of struggles because of the short arms and not being able to create separation. This kid Hines is the complete opposite of that. So I feel like him and Bernard is going to be a good battle. But again, Bernard gives you that special teams aspect because he played 50% of the special teams, so his spot may be secure. I feel like if we do go 3-4, that benefits Gifford a lot more, because Gifford was a very good 3-4 player, and
sure,
you haven't seen it yet, but he was very good blitzing from that middle linebacker spot, which is something that we really expect to get from our middle linebackers if they do the scheme that we think they're going to do. So I feel like he has a shot, better than a lot of these other guys, but it's still an uphill battle for him. And the fact that we have so few linebackers will probably help his chances a lot more.
Right. And then there's always the dynamic of the 3 guys that we're talking about for backups, he's the only one that Dan Quinn had a say-so in.
Yep.
Because Bernard was
Great
the year
point.
before, obviously. So that's something to keep in mind. He's the only one of, well, I shouldn't say only one of 3, because to your point, Gifford does fit the mold too. Gifford and Hines fit the mold of what Dan Quinn's defensive schemes look like better than Francis Bernard.
You're right.
But again, you want to have that versatility. The problem for Francis Bernard is when you draft a guy like Cox, who's known for being a coverage linebacker, and then you bring in Keanu O'Neal, who's a converted safety into linebacker, you have 2 guys right there that kind of filled the role of what Francis Bernard would develop into. So that's why I think of the 3, he's probably the one to go, as much as fans are not going to like that.
Yep.
I think a lot of fans are going to look at the roster, especially if it breaks down like that between those 3 and we keep 2, and Francis is the one that gets kicked out. Fans are going to be like, why did we keep Gifford?
Right.
But Gifford fits a 3-4 scheme better. So it's really going to depend on what we actually are doing. And then it's important to keep in mind, all 3 of them would potentially play a different role in the defense. Like Gifford's more of a true middle linebacker.
Right.
Hines is the guy that you can play at will or you can play at Sam. I think he's maybe more of a Sam of the 2. I'm not really sure on him.
Well, because of coverage, you probably put him more Sam.
Right. And then Francis is the guy that you'd play at will. So that's where it kind of is going to be. It's going to be an interesting camp battle for sure. That's one of the positions in addition to free safety that I'm really interested to see how it pans out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, let's keep the comments coming in. I mean, Professor O is throwing out a lot of knowledge. I mean, I'm having a problem keeping up, and I've done my homework on these guys. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. Let us know what you think about what we're saying. Let us know if you want us to rehash or elaborate more on the stuff we're talking about, because these guys, most people don't know. And we want to make sure you guys are as informed as possible when we start going into mini camps and in the training camp, so that when you hear a guy's name come up, you already kind of know what you can expect from him. Don't do it, Eric. I hope you're not talking about Hines as a free safety. But yeah, Mendoza says that 6 linebacker battle is going to be a good one. We're going to have a lot of good battles in camp this year, and I'm glad we're going to be able to see them this year, unlike other ones.
Right. That's a good problem to have, though. I mean, when you're just saying, I guess we'll keep this guy because we have nobody else to compete with him.
Yeah,
that's a bad thing. So when you're in this situation now where you're like, we have 2 or 3 guys and I don't really want to lose any of them, that's a much better dynamic to be in than what we've been in the past years.
Right. I don't know if you heard me make this comment if you came on at the time, but I said the past 10 years when preseason came around, I can pretty much slot the starting 20 of the 22 guys, like no question.
Right.
These 20 guys, I know exactly where they're going to play at, and I pretty much have a good idea of who's going to back them up. This year, outside of D-Law and Diggs on defense, I have no clue where anybody's going to play at. I mean, is Wilson going to play more free than strong? Is Neal going to play more linebacker than safety? If Hines makes the team, who gets put out? It's a lot of different question marks.
You can throw Bossman in too. We know where he's playing. Like by default, there's no other option outside cornerback, so he's going to start right away.
That's a good point.
And then Jordan Lewis. So we know we have a decent feel for cornerback, at least the top 3. After 3 is where kind of are they going to go with Wright? Are they going to keep Anthony Brown? Are they going to try to save the cap room? Is Reggie Robinson going to beat out one of those guys? Is Kennedy going to give you anything? We don't really know what we have there. So cornerback 1 through 3, we have a pretty good feel for how that's going to slot out, but the rest of it, that's going to be an interesting camp battle too.
I watch a lot of college, and I cannot get Michigan Jordan Lewis out of my head. Like, that kid was amazing at Michigan.
Right.
And I feel like if they finally put him in a situation where he can do what he did at Michigan, I think he can get that number 2 spot. So that's kind of why I say I'm not sure. I know Bossman Fat, you can pretty much pencil him in. He was a great cover 3 corner in college. But I think Jordan Lewis may have a say in that.
The game that stood out to me last year, and he doesn't get nobody brought it up because of we got stomped. That was the easy money game, Baltimore. Jordan Lewis made a ton of plays that game. That was probably one of the better games that he's played. But because he didn't have an interception or anything like notable, it kind of went to the wayside. But I was actually pretty impressed with him. I'm like, if he could do that, he should be playing more. Right. And then we kind of got out of that Rashard didn't really want him type of thing, or that question, was it Marinelli want him? Did Rashard want him? He didn't fit the size scheme or the size mold that they wanted. He definitely doesn't fit the size mold here in the Dan Quinn scheme. But the important thing to note there is the Dan Quinn scheme that people talk about when we think about it in Seattle was not what Atlanta played. Exactly. He didn't go with these tall cornerbacks in Atlanta. It was a different dynamic. And a lot of those guys, like if you look at both Ricardo Allen and DeMonte Casey, were cornerbacks that he converted to safety. So is that in the cards? We'll have to see. I don't think it's going to be year 1 because we don't have a lot of guys that can play that nickel slot corner position on the roster right now. But it should be interesting to see how that pans out too. I'm sorry we got sidetracked. I know we're talking undrafted free agents, but Berger got it just going down a rabbit hole. So
yeah, hey, that's what he does best. And if you haven't checked them out yet, Cowboys Uncensored, they come on usually on Wednesdays at noon. I think they're going to do Friday today. Check those guys out because Eric Berger and Charlie Moffitt are both knowledgeable guys too.
Yeah.
Mendoza asked a question. I answer this question all the time, so I'll let you take a crack at it. How likely do you think we see AB getting cut?
I don't think it's likely at all.
Okay.
I know
opposites on that one.
Okay. So the cap savings of what you save, I believe it's $2.5 million. That's helpful, but it's not a significant amount of money to free up. And then especially when how young we are at cornerback, I don't know that you really want to move on from Brown yet this year. I think obviously next year makes a lot more sense. But when you're talking about having Diggs, who played 11 games last year because he was injured, so he's pretty raw. Former wide receiver converted to cornerback. Then you have Kelvin. Obviously, Bossman's played no games at all. Jordan Lewis has played a lot, but he's never really been a true outside corner in the NFL. Doesn't mean he can't, but he hasn't yet. And then you have obviously Wright, 3rd-round pick. He's another converted wide receiver to cornerback. We don't have a lot of guys who are true cornerbacks that are versatile. So I think that's his saving grace. If Reggie Robinson shows a lot, maybe he can change that situation. But I think he's safe because you're not saving a ton of money by moving on. And he's one of the few guys you have with experience at that position.
Okay. Now, I asked you the question I asked Lambo before you came on.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's assume we're keeping 6 corners.
Okay.
4 of those corners are 1st or 2nd year guys. Bossman Fat, Diggs, Wright, and Robinson. One of those guys is Jordan Lewis, who just got paid, so he's not going anywhere. And one of those guys is CJ Goodwin, who's far and away your best special teams player.
Right.
That's 6.
Yeah. No, Goodwin's not going anywhere. It's Reggie Robinson because we don't know what he is. I mean, he was a cornerback who played a little bit of safety in college. NFL, we haven't really seen how that's fleshed out. They played him at safety. Then they're like, he's going to be cornerback. And then we're like, no, he's a safety again. And now we're finding out he's a cornerback. So we don't really know what he can do. So it's a big question mark. If you go that young at cornerback, I mean, I just feel like you're risking it a little bit too much for my liking, but I don't run the team. So you could be right. I get that argument. I personally think we're going to go with 5 cornerbacks. So that also changes things too. But Goodwin's safe. Like Goodwin's not going anywhere. The coaches love him. He adds a lot on the special teams. He's your key gunner, huge on kickoff team. He's not going anywhere. You can lock him in.
Since you brought it up, if we go 5 cornerbacks, like you say, who are the 2 cornerbacks getting cut? Because you just cut Robinson, you still got to make room.
Yeah. Well, Kennedy's gone for sure, but yeah.
No,
so
Kennedy wasn't listed in my 6.
Okay, so we're talking Diggs, Bossman,
right?
Jordan Lewis. Those 3 are safe.
Okay.
Right is where it becomes questionable. Okay. And again, do you really cut a guy who is a top 100 pick
that your coach pretty much selected?
Yeah,
despite what everybody else mostly thinks about him.
Right. Yeah. So that's where it gets interesting. I can't see them cutting a guy that they just spent a top 99th pick overall on, but at the same time, you're not going to cut Goodwin. So yeah, no, good question. I'd have to think about that. I think we'd want to go 6 deep because of that. But if you go 5, yeah, I mean Brown's going to have a tough time making the roster over a guy that they spent a 3rd-round pick on.
I just wanted to put it out there.
No, it's a good question.
So yeah, and like you said, Kennedy, I don't know how much say he has in all this right now. And I think we let go of Rashard Robinson, right? He got a lot of playing time last year.
That was interesting too. He got more snaps than Reggie Robinson, and you'd think that Reggie was the guy, but yeah.
You think so? Yeah. All right, so let's go to our next player. We kind of went on a tangent, but it was good dialogue, and thank you for whoever started that conversation up. All right, so let's go to, something interesting since we bring that up. We didn't take a corner in undrafted free agency.
Right.
I thought that was kind of interesting. So apparently they really like the guys they got, and they're just going to roll with them and see what happens next. All right, so let's go to all these wide receivers we got. Let's go ahead and talk about one of them. Let's start with the one that everybody knows the most, kind of been the fan favorite, and that's TJ Vasher, wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Highlight catch guy, Professor O. I'll let you take it away on this one. Let us know your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so TJ Vasher, obviously the things people like about him is he can make circus highlight catches. He's 6'6", he has great size. He has NFL bloodline. So if you remember Nathan Vasher, former cornerback, he was a Pro Bowler for the Bears. That's TJ Vasher's uncle.
Texas, right?
Yeah, I believe he's from Texas, but played for the Bears in the NFL. That's TJ Vasher's uncle. He has a 7'2" wingspan. So I mean, he's freakish size and athleticism, or not really athleticism.
In the draft, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the longest wingspan in the draft. The things I don't like about him is for his size, you think he'd be better on contested balls than he was. Yeah. He wasn't very good at that. He gets bullied a lot. He's tall and lanky. He gets bullied a lot. Like I think when people look at him, they think
a lot.
Like he's not like a Plaxico Burress type of guy who's tall and physical. He's not very physical. He's tall and lanky. He's not super fast or quick. So those are a couple other things. And then it's interesting to note he did not run a 40 at the pro day. So he decided not to run that. And that was one of the main concerns is, can he run? and he chose not to do that. So it's kind of interesting. What I like about him, obviously, is the size, and it's different from what we have on the roster. So that's kind of his avenue where he makes sense. I think he's a practice squad player. I don't see any possible way he beats out any of the top 5 or even top 6. Again, with his size, you think he'd be better, but he gets bullied quite a bit. Even smaller, much smaller cornerbacks, I'm not going to say out-jump him, but they out-position him for the ball, which is he's kind of seems like a guy who may have chosen the wrong sport to play.
Definitely. I can tell you watch tape because that's something nobody talks about with Vasher. He gets bullied way too much for his size.
Yeah.
I believe he's like 210. So you would expect him to be a little bit more physical with that size, but yeah, he gets pushed around quite a bit. I will give him this. He has pretty good wiggle for a big guy.
He has. I should have mentioned that. He has good feet, actually.
He does have
He's just not physical at all. And that's concerning because that's, that size kind of gets mitigated when you're not physical as well. Yeah. In addition to it, he has a tough time beating press, but if he gets off the line, he's actually pretty smooth. He has quick feet, or good feet, I should say, not really quick feet, but he's a decent route runner too. He's just a decent route runner. It's just that he's got to bulk up, and maybe an NFL conditioning program can do that for him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play as big as he is. Yeah.
And we got to talk about this, the great hand-eye coordination.
Right.
I mean, he makes a lot, the big hands, I think his hands are like 10 3/4. He makes a lot of one-handed catches, a lot of behind-the-head catches, a lot of catches where he's getting bullied by a guy and he just throws a hand out and grabs it before it hits the ground.
Right.
So he definitely has some positives, but like you said, he has to get in the weight room because these NFL corners will embarrass him. And I don't think he gives you anything in terms of special teams either. And that's going to be very important once you get past the top 3 receivers to make this team. All right, so let's go to another receiver. We'll go 2 receivers in a row, 3 receivers in a row, because we got so many big guys. We got to talk about another kind of fan favorite, Brandon Eagles from University of Texas. Another one of these tall receivers. I think he's 6'4", 220. What do you think about him?
So I actually like him more than Vasher, and a lot of people are gonna, maybe cringe when I say that. I just like.
Mendoza agrees with you as well. He talks about it quite a bit.
I just think for when you're looking at a guy who has he's not quite as tall as Vasher, but he plays bigger, and I think he makes more sense to be a guy that can move into that 4 or 5 role because he also can potentially play special teams. I don't know that he's necessarily a Noah Brown replacement, but I'd maybe comp him closer to that than what Vasher would be. From a fit perspective. And I know that if you paid any attention to the rookie training camp, rookie mini camp, I should say, he's a guy that quite a few people were talking about, saying he actually kind of jumped out and looked more impressive than what they were expecting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit all the points on him. One thing I will say, and it's kind of a thing with all the big receivers except for Vasher, he because of his size, he's just a slow takeoff guy.
Right.
So it takes him a while to build momentum and get downfield. Just during his college career, he was pretty much just a slant guy. Hit, slant, comeback. He rarely got a lot of deep routes just because it takes him a while to build up momentum. Even when he's running open field, he still doesn't really just kind of pull away from people.
Right.
And I don't know how that'll fit in this offensive scheme we're trying to run. But if we go more West Coast under McCarthy, that may be another one of those guys we keep around. And Mendoza talked about the special teams thing that you mentioned, said he looked a little bit better than Semi this past week. So that's something that you got to keep an eye on. Now,
I know Broadus specifically mentioned him. So,
yeah,
if you respect Broadus, which a lot of people do, Broadus specifically mentioned him after the rookie minicamp.
So we got 2 more receivers. I got to go to this one next because this one is different than all the other ones. And I really like this kid. And that's Brandon Smith from Iowa. Now he's another one of those height, weight, speed guys, 6'2", 200 pounds. I believe he got 24 reps on the bench, which is something you don't look for in receivers because you normally think of them as like the finesse guys. 4.5 speed. I believe his vertical was 44 inches. So he's going to give you explosiveness, and it shows on camera. Another thing I like about him, he's a very willing blocker. Like when I watched him play at Iowa, he almost looked for guys to block. Like if the play didn't come his way, he was still going to block a guy. And if it came his way, his guy was pushed out of the way easily. Another thing I like about him, he is an above the rim player. He's always going to jump up over the corner's head and make a play. But the opposite of that, his hands are inconsistent. Like I watch him make these circus catches, and then like a simple slant route, I'll see the ball go through his hands. So that's one of those things I'm concerned about with him. He reminds me a lot of James Washington from Pittsburgh when I watch him play. Just one of those explosive guys. He's more Michael Gallup than any receiver we have right now. So I think because of that, if we're thinking Gallup may not be here in another year or so, this is one of those kids I think we may see go in the practice squad because he has that exact same skill set. Pretty much everything I would have said about Gallup 3 years ago, I'll say about this kid right now. Except I don't think his hands were as good as Gallup's coming out. All right, Professor, what do you got on Smith?
Yeah, you kind of covered it. What I'll say with him, two things actually. So Mike Crum was on with J Tuck, I believe yesterday, maybe.
Yeah,
I think it was yesterday. And Crum specifically mentioned how he stood out amongst all the other wide receivers in terms of blocking at minicamp. So kind of, piggybacking on what you just said. An interesting stat for you there. An Iowa wide receiver has not caught a single pass in the NFL since 2007.
Wow.
A long time. So maybe he's the guy. I don't know that he makes the roster this year. He's probably a practice squad player. But if he does, he could break that trend. That's a long time. You're talking coming up on 15 years soon since the last wide receiver from Iowa. And if you watch Iowa offense or Iowa in general, any college football fan knows that's not a aired out offense. They're never going to be a team where you see them throwing 50 and 60 passes a game. I just thought that's kind of interesting. And you look at his production and it kind of reflects that. I mean, he has a 300-yard year, 400-yard year, 200-yard year. So he doesn't have like elite plays or games that you can watch. There's not a single game that I can think of where I'm like, this is the game that's going to jump out on film on you. It's just kind of, bits and pieces here and there, but it's not necessarily a reflection of him. It's just their play style.
Yeah. Typical Big Ten school,
right?
Run first, play physical, offense and defense control the clock. Now, I talk about Noah Brown a lot, and we talk about Eagles and Vasher. This is the kid that would concern me as the one who could get Brown pushed off the team. Because if anybody gets a chance, just go watch a game and just go find number 12 and watch him blocking. He's eating guys up. You see the 22 reps on bench when he blocks a guy. He looks like a running back blocking out there.
Right.
And just because of the height, weight, speed, I would assume, and the physicality he plays with, I would assume he'd be a good special teamer. So just something to watch. You just don't know what happens once you get the number 5, number 6 receiver. Special teams becomes important, and this is one of those guys who can push the back end of the roster. All right, guys. So let's keep the comments coming. We're at an hour and a half right now. We're pretty close to halfway through the undrafted free agents. So if there's a particular guy you guys want us to talk about, or if you have questions about something we've already discussed, make sure you put it in the comments. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe. Go find Matt O on social media as well. Before we keep going, Matt, let the people know where they can find you at, and we'll also do this at the end.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter at ProfessorO_NFL. I had a tweet that went kind of crazy this week. I made a joking comment about firing Rowdy. I don't know if you saw that one. It had like 500 likes, 200,000 views. It kind of went viral. I was just messing around, just bringing up the coincidence that since 1995 we haven't won a Super Bowl. Rowdy was brought in as the mascot officially in 1996. And then from 96 to 2008, we didn't win a playoff game. And then he missed the 2009 season, the first year in the new stadium. And then we made the playoffs and won a playoff game. So I just was kind of throwing it out there for fans. And I guess I put fuel on a gasoline, lit a spark on gasoline because it took off and went crazy. I was just messing around. But yeah, you can find me ProfessorO_NFL. I'm also on Star Gang on Wednesdays with Spoonie, Mariella, Nix, and J Tuck.
Okay, so So are you going to be official regular with Star Gang? Like are you official member of the Star Gang now, or are you just coming in and doing your guest host thing on occasion?
Yeah, I think I'm officially on with them. So
Okay.
Mariella works kind of crazy hours. She has a client that she deals with in Japan, I believe, or China, one of the two. So a lot of times she's working at nighttime because that's their business hours. So I'm kind of the fill-in guy that jumps in whenever one of them's not available. But typically it works out where I'm on almost every week with them.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and you putting in great content with them as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I've been watching for a while. All right, so Beard Gang asked a question. I've kind of talked about this on social media, and we'll get back into undrafted free agency. So what are your thoughts on the quarterback room right now? Do you like the quarterbacks we have behind Dak? Do you think we need to add another guy, or are you good with who we have?
So it's a good question for sure. Brian's great, by the way. I see him on a lot of the YouTube channels. He does a great job supporting and jumping in, asking questions. And he actually jumped on live with us. I can't remember if it was a week or two ago. He jumped in and asked some questions. So, yeah, I don't love the quarterback room. I mean, we don't have a legit backup quarterback right now. I'm actually intrigued with Gilbert. I thought he was surprisingly good, much better than I thought he would be against the Steelers last year. DiNucci scares the heck out of me. I hope he develops. Like I don't want to root against him, but and then Jeffrey just brought it up, but Hundley's kind of the name that's been thrown around right now. Jeff Driscoll he was kind of the hot quarterback we were looking at bringing in. He just signed with the Texans. We brought him in and decided to pass on him. So I don't know if they were just waiting to see what happened, but Hundley is an interesting guy, came out of UCLA, hasn't really had tremendous success in the NFL, but he's kind of been a journeyman. I liked him a lot in college too. I was surprised he hasn't panned out at all in the NFL, but he's played in McCarthy's schemes in the past. So makes sense. I would actually feel a lot better about the quarterback room if we brought him in. Sorry to steal Jeff's comment, but that's pretty much my thoughts. Yeah. I'd feel pretty confident if we went into the season with Dak, obviously at number one, and then some combination of Gilbert and Hundley. I don't know if you go 3 deep at quarterback, but if we have those 3 guys as who we're choosing between, I'm pretty excited. DiNucci kind of is cringeworthy after how he played last year. What are your thoughts?
100% same thing. I'm very high on Hundley. I follow like 4 or 5 teams very closely in college: Clemson, UCLA, Missouri, Michigan. So those guys I always follow. I loved Hundley coming out. I felt like he was probably going to stay in Green Bay for a while, but that didn't work out. When they got rid of the OC and the quarterback, he was one of those guys that kind of got pushed out as well. I actually thought we were going to get him last year before Arizona when McCarthy came.
Right.
So I hope they bring him back this year. His comparison for me was Dak all the way coming out. Smart kid, athletic, tough. Accuracy needed some work, but he's going to bring all the intangibles you want for a player. He's a year younger than Dak. He's familiar with the system. I think he would be a great guy for that quarterback room in terms of giving you some stability if Dak misses time, and also giving you a mentor for the younger guys, because I'm of the belief I don't need my starting quarterback to mentor young guys. I need him to go win games. And I know a lot of people get upset when you hear like an Aaron Rodgers say, or Brett Favre say stuff like that. But that's what I want. I want them 24/7 get us to a Super Bowl. I don't need you holding the hands of some young kid who may touch the field in 5 years.
Right.
So I definitely always like to have a veteran backup.
Yeah, and to your point, I think when you have a guy like Hundley, he allows you to do a lot of the same things you can do in the offense with Dak. So God forbid you have another injury, obviously knock on wood there. Mm-hmm. He fits in and can run a lot of the same plays. You don't have to drastically change your offense. I will say, to Kellen Moore's credit, I didn't think that he drastically changed the offense with Andy Dalton. He was able to kind of keep the same general play style. Andy's just not as good of a quarterback. And that's not a knock on him. It's just the truth. Dak's a much better player than he is. You feel better with some veteran leadership, even if Hundley's not like an 8 or 9 year starter in the NFL. He's played, he's been around, He gets it. He's, the lights are probably not going to be too much for him if he does have to play. And again, when it comes down to it, if you lose your starting quarterback, you're probably not going to do anything anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you go with a guy like Hundley for $3 million compared to a guy like Andy Dalton or, any other backup you talk about. And like the whole history of the NFL, there's been 2 quarterbacks who are backups that went on to win the Super Bowl for their team.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely, if you lose your starter, it doesn't really matter. Your season's pretty much over. I mean, you may make the playoffs, but you're not going to be a legit contender with a backup unless the stars just perfectly align, like what happened with the Eagles.
Exactly. And just to add on what you said, there are only maybe 3 backup quarterbacks that any team would feel comfortable with. And those guys are former first-round picks who kind of flamed out where they are, or some guy who played for 10 years and now he's just kind of transitioning to their mentor role. So like a Marcus Mariota, Andy Dalton, possibly wherever he is, Alex Smith if he comes back, guys like that. Other than that, the other 28 to 30 teams are all just hoping their starting quarterback stays healthy, basically.
Right.
All right, we'll go one more quarterback question, and then we'll get back into these undrafted guys. Matt, if you know how to use private chat, if time gets too long, you need to go, just let me know.
No, I'm good. We're good.
All right. So one more question. What do you think about RG3 as a possible backup?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I don't think it's going to happen, just being honest. Yeah. I wouldn't hate it. A lot of fans kind of still have that cringe when you bring him up because they think of him as a Washington Redskin back when they were the Redskins. Yeah. But he's been gone from Washington for quite some time, and he was a pretty decent backup for Baltimore. And I don't know how much you can say he really helped develop Lamar Jackson because Lamar's still raw and developing, but he's also his MVP. I don't think really RG3 had a lot to do with that, but I mean, he gives you a guy with some comfort level if he has to start. And again, we're talking about you don't want them to start anyways, but he gives you some more comfort level. I'm open to it. I wouldn't love it. I wouldn't hate it.
He would have to show me that he can play without relying on his limited athleticism.
Right.
The few times I watched him play, he still looked like he was trying to rely on being the most athletic guy on the field, and he got blown up because he wasn't. Mm-hmm. So until he shows me he can actually play quarterback and not try to be the scrambler he was 5 years ago, I'd be okay with it. But other than that, I'd probably rather have Huntley. I feel like he can come in and run a system. And that's what I think. If something happened to Dak, that's what we need more than anything. A guy who can just run the system, because our skill guys are so good. That's all you got to do.
It's hard. It really is so hard to break those instincts. And people are like, well, you just get coached out of it. I don't know how many people in the chat played basketball, for instance. Yeah. When you were 18 or 19, you may have been able to slash and go to the rim with no problem. When you play pickup basketball in your late 30s and 40s, you still want to do it out of instinct, just out of habit. Right. So like, even if you tell yourself like, I can't do that, I can't run with these guys anymore, I need to, stay in my lane. Once the ball's in your hand and you're doing it, your mind just, that's why you see a lot of batters in baseball that once something gets in their mind, no matter what you try to do to coach them out of it, they have to just eventually swing themselves out of it to get back into rhythm. Once they start, swinging at every curveball, taking every breaking pitch, whatever it is, it's not as easy as just sitting them in a film room and saying like, hey, look, this is what you do. Because once the moment starts, it goes back. That's what Tebow had the issue with when they tried to adjust his throwing motion. Mm-hmm. He was fine. You see all these this footage of him at camp and in the offseason working out, and his motion looks better. And then as soon as he gets in live action, he goes right back to what's comfortable with. Right. So it's not easy for a guy like RG3 to say like, well, I can't just tuck it and run when I need to.
Exactly. And those are great comparisons too. Took the words right out of my mouth. It's all about muscle memory. You can't turn that off. That's who you are. And you still feel like you can do it. And when you can't, he has to learn the hard way.
Right.
All right, so let's get back into these undrafted free agents. All right, let's go to running back because we haven't touched on running back yet. And let's talk about the kid from the small school nobody really knows, Tiffin College, and that is Jaquan Hardy. Hard to find some tape on him, but from what I saw, I did kind of like what I saw. So, Professor O, let me know what you think about him.
Honestly, full transparency, I'm going to have to defer to you.
Okay.
On him. I don't know anything about him.
No problem. All right. So, again, he came from small Tiffin College. Was not a lot of tape of him out there. I watched like 2 highlight clips, which I hate doing to evaluate a guy. And I was able to find 1 full game. And then a couple of little snippets here and there. But one thing I do like about him, he's a shifty runner, which is something. I mean, we talk about Tony Pollard. He's an elusive runner, but he's not like a shifty runner. This kid is one of those guys who's a juker. Like, he plays the juker guy and uses stiff arm because he's kind of a short, stocky player. I think he's like 6 foot, 5'11", like 220. But he has good feet when it comes to moving in tight spaces. He has a little bit of explosiveness. He has a mean little stiff arm for his size. The only things I didn't like about him are because he's one of those shifty guys, he gets a little loose with the ball. And you can't put the ball on the ground in the NFL. And that may have been one of the reasons why he's undrafted, also because he came from a small school. And he did not look good in pass pro, even at that level. And that's very concerning. I did see him do some punt return. So maybe if he comes in and shows that shiftiness and he can hold on to the ball, he may be able to make a little bit of noise in preseason. But I don't think any of our running backs are in jeopardy of losing their spot to him.
Do you see Brian's question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got into it. Would you compare him to Boston Scott? That's a good comparison, actually. I think Boston Scott may be. You know what? That's an accurate comparison. Another thing, he didn't catch a lot of balls either, considering he's kind of a big scat back. I think Boston Scott may be a little bit better in the receiving game, but that's a good comparison. I think Scott may be a little bit smaller than him too, but he has that same kind of shifty juke ability. And then when he gets you off balance, he'll hit you with that little stiff arm and try to get to the outside. But
I saw a question. Somebody asked what his 40 time was. At his pro day, he ran a 4.51 and a 4.56.
For a 220-pound running back, that's good. Like, I feel like people get enamored with the 4.3 and 4.4 guys. 4.5 is fast when you're talking about a guy at 220. So don't think he's a slow player. That's good speed for a running back. But again, he had some fumbling issues. He did not do much catching the ball, and he looked bad at Division II level in terms of pass pro. So he's going to have to make some noise as a punt returner to even have a chance to make it through preseason, let alone get a spot on this team. Mendoza says a couple towns south. That's pretty much all he could say. I mean, that's about all you can say about him at any level. I mean, it's hard to find tape on Tiffin College. All right, let's go to the other running back then. So, Matt, I think you have a little bit more knowledge about this kid. So we'll go to Brendan Knox, running back out of Marshall. Let me know what you think about this kid.
So it's kind of funny. He's literally the complete opposite of what you just described with Hardy.
I know.
So he's 5'11", 215, ran a 4.6 40, had a 1,300-yard season, 11 touchdowns in 2019. He's built like an NFL running back. He's solid.
Yeah.
He has great ball security. He only had one fumble in over 500 carries in college. So again, you said Hardy has fumbling issues. He's the complete opposite there. However, Knox has basically no wiggle whatsoever. He's not fast. He's not fast or quick. He's a one-speed guy. He's a one-cut running back. Not going to make a lot of people miss. Marshall is a zone block scheme, so that's kind of where he, made his name off of. He's a guy that I think has a chance to make the practice squad, but it's funny because everything you're saying about Hardy, I'm like, Knox is literally the mirror image of that. He's the reverse. So yeah, from a ball security perspective, he makes a lot of sense. I don't know if he's going to be a guy or really if Hardy is a guy that would knock Rico out of the running back 3 slot, but there are guys that potentially could. There's not going to be much of a cost savings if you do that because Rico's, he's a low cost player, but potential there. I just don't see a lot of upside since he doesn't really break a ton of tackles and he's not super fast. He's just kind of a reliable, you don't have to worry about him fumbling. That's pretty much the best thing you can say about him.
This is the kind of kid where if heaven forbid something happened to Zeke, this would be the kid you bring up from the practice squad, and he will probably leapfrog a guy like Rico as your number 2 running back.
Yes. Yeah, because he's the opposite of what Pollard is too.
Exactly.
They're just different type of players. And again, he's built for it. He had quite a few carries in college.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not super explosive. I was trying to think of who an NFL comp for him would be.
I had one as soon as I saw him.
Who is it? I'm interested to hear what you got.
Alfred Morris.
Okay.
He runs like Alfred Morris to me, just a one-speed guy. He's gonna make a cut, and he's gonna just that little one move, and then he's just run as much as he can and hope he can use a stiff arm to get extra yards.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad comparison.
Yeah, and Jeff says Rico spotted secure barring injury.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think either one of those guys is really going to push him, but that would be their only avenue. I think one of the two will make the practice squad. I don't think both will.
I agree with that, yeah. Charlie Moffitt says, can he jump trash cans like Zeke? I assume you mean Hardy, because I don't see Knox jumping any trash cans anytime soon. And I didn't see Hardy jump a lot either. He has one move, is wiggle, 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 and if he gets you off balance, he hits you with that little stiff arm. But again, when he stiff arms, that ball kind of comes out like this. And I saw way too many times where those little short arms couldn't stiff arm enough, and the guy got a hand on it, and that was it.
Right.
But yeah, complete opposite. And that's what's so interesting when I look at the undrafted guys we went with. We had so many guys who were kind of opposites. It's like, what are they looking for? Like, are they just throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks, or do
wide receiver is the only spot where they were pretty consistent. They went with 3 huge wide receivers, and then Brandon Smith, who was the opposite. But I mean, Osiris Mitchell, who we haven't talked about, is basically the same copy and paste of what a Brennan Eagles, TJ Vasher is. It's this definitely like a specific profile that they were looking for wide receivers and undrafted free agency.
I wish you could see my notes right now, because I wrote everything you could say about Eagles include for Mitchell. That's what I have on him.
He's just a copy paste. They're the same guy.
Yep, exactly. Now, what I will say about, we could talk about Mitchell now, actually, and then we'll go to the 2 tight ends. Okay, where'd I have Mitchell at? All right, so wide receiver, Mississippi State, Osiris Mitchell. We kind of talked about him. 6'5", 210, long wingspan, big hands. Pretty much what we said before. Matt, you got anything extra you want to throw in about Mitchell?
Not really. I'm sure Dak would love to have him, Mississippi State guys, but he doesn't really offer anything that the other guys don't. I mean, he's just kind of a combination of what Eagles does well and what Vasher does well, but he's like a lesser extent. So I don't really think he has much of a chance to make the roster. Given if I was ranking the 3, I think that Brennan Eagles is going to have the best chance to make the roster. And I'm talking practice squad, not starting 53, of course, out of those guys. But Mitchell has, there's some things to like about his game. He just doesn't do anything flashy where you're like, I see this guy as the future NFL starter or even a future backup. I don't know that he'll ever be on the top 5.
All right, let me ask you this question, because I haven't kept track of this much. Do we still have Kendrick Rogers and Stephen Guidry? Do we have one of them? I know one got released, but do we have the other one?
We do. Guidry, I believe, is still on the roster. Okay. I don't know. I don't think Rogers is anymore.
I know one of them was released to get us down to 80. I didn't remember which was which.
Yeah, I think Guidry's still there.
All right, so he fits the same mold as all these other guys. If you watched him last year, do you think he may have a leg up on them, or is he kind of right there in the same situation?
He's probably in the same situation. That it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the practice squad when you're looking at guys that we had last year versus guys that are coming in. There's a lot of the same type of players, truthfully. So I don't really know what the plan is there. It's kind of interesting because you have those practice squad guys to either develop them or to be your safety, break glass in case of emergency, in case somebody on the starting roster is out with an injury. I don't really see how any of them make sense from a special teams perspective. I actually like Rogers quite a bit last year, so I was bummed that he's not back. But I don't really see any of them as a guy that could potentially push to be a starter down the road or develop. But again, when you look at a practice squad, you're not really anticipating that happening very often. Truthfully, I don't really understand the plan with wide receivers in the practice squad because none of them really fit, aside from Brandon Smith, what we have on the roster to replace that if we needed to. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and Mendoza actually was leading to the next question because we still have Aaron Parker, who out of all these guys may be the only guy who I would consider a route runner.
Right.
And he's still there, good hands. Everything you just said, I agree with 100%. Now you throw Aaron Parker in the mix. Do you think he kind of fits in the same mold as these other guys, or do you think because he has that route running ability, he may have a leg up on him?
I think he has a leg up on them because he's more similar to the guys that we already have above him than any of these guys are. I think Parker actually has a pretty decent chance to be back on the practice squad. I don't think he's a guy that is really going to develop much more than what he is now. Yeah. But what he is now is a better fit for what we do from an offensive perspective than what the other guys have to offer. But again, they clearly have something. They're wanting guys that can go up and get the football. They want size and length at wide receiver too. Right. I mean, we talked about that heavily after the draft defensively and in free agency. That's the same profile that they're looking for from wide receivers, apparently, because they did it multiple times at the undrafted free agents.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's keep those comments coming in. We still got a few more guys to talk about. We definitely want to get you guys input. Everybody who's been leaving comments, thank you guys. Great questions, great comments. Let's keep the train rolling. We got about 5 more guys to go, probably another 15, 20 minutes. So stick with us. If you haven't done so already, make sure you share it. And let's get back into it. So now we will go to, I probably should have done this one earlier because this is another one of those fan favorite type guys. And this is the guy with the viral video.
Yes.
Nick Ralston, fullback from Louisiana.
Right.
Now, what can you tell me about him other than that video?
So other than that video, he's a fullback, right? Like he's 6'1", 240-ish.
Now, where did he transfer from? Because I know he was a transfer.
He was a transfer from Arizona State. He was actually at Arizona State for 4 years. He's not going to offer much in the run game. Not a great receiving running back. He has decent hands, so I don't want to make him sound like he can't make plays on the ball. He's just not a great route runner. A lot of 240 running backs are not, you're not going to expect a lot out of him.
Right.
Interesting thing about him is they listed him as athlete, and the reason for that is while he was at Arizona State, he played fullback, linebacker, and tight end. Okay. So there's some position flex there. He's absolutely a practice squad only guy. He has pretty much no chance to make the roster. But he's a guy that fans are going to fall in love with. I don't know if they've announced who's going to do Hard Knocks. I don't know if it'll be Dallas or not, but he's a guy that I could see fans, falling in love with. They watch the video of him pulling trucks and they're like, we haven't had a true fullback. He actually has the moniker on, if you follow him on Twitter, Make Fullbacks Great Again, which was coined by former friend of the Dallas Cowboys, Keith Smith, who is doing his thing with the Atlanta Falcons now. But he made a whole line of clothing, hats, T-shirts saying make fullbacks great again. So he's a traditional fullback. A lot of fans are going to like him for that reason. Like Jeff mentioned, Zeke, in my opinion, played better when he was running behind a true fullback. But I think I don't know. Do you pronounce it Suo is a better athlete, and I think he gives you more of what I'm drawing it. Olawale could, which to me is Olawale could offer. 2 years ago before he opted out. He's a better athlete, and I think Suo, however you pronounce his name, has a better chance. I don't know that we even keep a fullback, truthfully.
Okay.
And that's going to be kind of interesting to get into, and I know fans may or may not like that, but I think we'd see more of the fullback being that F or H back where you're using a tight end as a lead blocker instead. But if they do go the fullback, I think Ralston's a guy that, he has position flex. He's versatile. He's a future special teams guy, potentially in the NFL, but I think he's a practice squad only at this point.
Yeah. When the little bit I looked at him, I saw him make some good blocks. Strong kid. I can see a lot of the Terminator comparisons. Remember John Connor from Hard Knocks?
I do.
I can see him being that type of guy where he just comes in and they put him in that I backfield and he blows up a linebacker and keeps his name relevant out there. But like you said, I don't see this scheme keeping a fullback. The only reason we kept Rod Smith is because he was great at special teams. Keith Smith, even though he was a very good fullback, he stuck around because of special teams as well. So I feel like we're gonna need a guy who can really compete at special teams. And I know I say this a lot, but special teams are very important when it comes to the makeup of a team. So he's gonna have an uphill battle to get on this team because there are a couple of guys that we're about to talk about that I really like who could possibly give you some H-back work. I mean, we got what's the tight end we got from Michigan last year? Name just left me.
So we have McKeon. Is that what you're talking about?
McKeon, yeah. He's going to give you some H-back work this year. We just signed Jeremy Sprinkle from Washington. So between one of those two guys, they're going to fill that Blake Bell role. So if this kid wants to make the team, he's really going to have to blow up some guys and make an appearance on special teams. So now we go to the tight end position, and this is a kid that I like in terms of his movement skills, if I can find them. And that is Artavius Lynn, tight end from TCU. Now, did you get a chance to watch any of him?
No, I know a lot more about Nick Eubanks than him, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say about him. I was actually chatting with Marcus Jones last night about him, and he said he likes Lynn better than Eubanks, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Marcus Smith, you mean Boss Cowboy?
Marcus Smith, yeah. No, not Boss. I apologize if I said his name wrong. Yeah, Marcus Jones. I was chatting with him last night about him.
Oh, you talking about me? I forgot
my bad, man. My bad. Yes, we were chatting last night. I'm getting Marcus's mixed up. Yeah, I was chatting with Boss, but not about him. Yes, you and I were chatting about him last night. Yeah. You said you like Lynn better, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, I like him because of his size and because of his aggressiveness. He didn't get a lot of reps, but when he came on the field, he was out for blood. And I like that from a tight end. He's 6'6", 260. He's not a blazing guy. He's probably a 4'7" something guy, but he shows his strength. He's a willing blocker. He's a pretty good blocker in terms of a tight end. Again, when I try to watch some of these guys like a Lynn play, I try to pay attention to special teams to see if I see him on special teams. And I did see him on quite a few special teams, so that's always something I have to keep in mind. I don't think either tight end has a shot to make the team, but from a special team and blocking aspect, if this kid can come in and get a legitimate shot, I could see him possibly beating out a Sean McKeon to be your third tight end if you need a guy for blocking in special teams. Honestly, I don't think either one touches the field offensively.
Right.
In terms of the receiving game. Even though athletically I do like Eubanks, and I'll let you touch on that one. Did you have anything you want to add on Lynn?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to Eubanks then. I'll let you take off on this one. Nick Eubanks, athletic tight end from Michigan.
Yeah, so Nick Eubanks, 6'4", 245, ran a 4.59 40. So from an athleticism perspective, he's different than what we have on the roster. So he's a guy that I think a lot of fans are probably more familiar with him over Lynn. Big concern with him. He's already 24. He'll actually be 25 this season. Mm-hmm. He's old. He's a lot older than a lot of the other guys that we have in the draft class. He only had 589 yards in school. He wasn't heavily featured. People thought he would progressively get more involvement in the offense, and it just never really came to fruition. Mm-hmm. Not a great blocker. And I think that's what's going to separate him from Lynn is Lynn's the better blocker out of the two. Eubanks is just a little bit more athletic. He doesn't have great height at 6'4", but he's tall enough. He's a guy that I think has more potential from, eventually developing into the offense, but I don't think that he's really a guy that's going to push anybody on the roster. Where his usage would be if he did make the roster was he's going to be an H-back. He's a guy that you can move around.
Took the words right out of my mouth. And I did talk about Eubanks like during the draft analysis. Mendoza talked about that. And that was more of that H-back role, like you just said. I was about to jump in with that. I still think he's too raw. He didn't get a lot of experience playing in Michigan. Sean McKeon played more than him last year, and they had another tight end that played more than him this year. But you look at the athletic traits, 6'4", 240-something, 4.5 speed. Maybe they can find a role for him, but like you said, he's 25, so the clock is ticking.
Right.
Yeah, we don't We don't normally see a 28-year-old guy at the end of his first contract.
Yeah.
And I talked about that with Jon'Vale Johnson a couple years ago when people were in love with him. And I kept telling them, like, he was our third oldest receiver as a rookie. That's not good for your chances to make the team.
No.
And it's probably still that way too.
When people were talking about safety and everybody was talking about Richie Grant, that was actually one of the knocks I had against him was he's 23 and he'll be 24. And 24 doesn't sound old when you're talking about a guy who's already 24, turning 25. But when you look at all the other safeties that people talked about, they were all 21 or 22. So that's a pretty big difference when you're talking about the lifetime of a rookie contract. By the time it's up, now you have a 27, 28-year-old versus a 25, 26-year-old. Like Javon Holland, for instance, just turned 21. So he's 3 full years younger. So, yeah, I just thought that was worth noting, especially the age. You don't have a lot of time to develop him. If he doesn't catch on quickly in the next couple of years, you're probably not going to be able to use him.
Yeah, I was laughing because I saw Eric Berger's comments.
I saw that too. I didn't.
It would be a great fullback, Zeke. They just don't like the running backs at Cowboys Uncensored. I give it to them. Mo Zavala, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in.
What's up, Mo?
Yeah, I think we got about 15 or 20 more minutes left. So we've gone through the list pretty quick. So we may only have about 10 minutes left to hit on everybody. Again, guys, thank you guys for joining. Thank you for the great comments. Be sure to stick with us as we go through these last 2 or 3 players. Keep the questions coming. Keep the comments coming because you guys leaving great comments, asking great questions. We got the Professor Matt O here with us, breaking down all these players, doing a great job. Pretty much just making me scratch my list out right now because he's hitting all the points, which is what I love because when I have a guest, I like for my guest to talk. And I love it when what the guest says is accurate and knowledgeable and it teaches the people. So great job, man.
Well, it's the first time you've had me on, so I couldn't disappoint or you won't have me come back. So I had to make sure I was ready, prepared for this.
Definitely. And people who watch know I'm pretty particular about the guests that I bring on because I'm not the type of guy who wants to bring in a name. I like bringing in people who can bring knowledge because I'm all about like knowledge and teaching people and having good discussions. I could care less about how many Twitter followers so-and-so has to get them on the show.
Right.
And I know you have a big following, so it's just a bonus that you are really knowledgeable as a fan as well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. You got that right, Mo. He definitely knows his stuff. All right, so I think we've gone through the list pretty good. Let me see who we have left.
It should be
defensive tackle, offensive line.
Braylon Jones, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Braylon Jones. Offensive lineman, University of Houston. Had a lot of versatility to his game. What did you think about him?
So he's a tough one, truthfully.
He is tough.
So he has decent size for a guard, 6'3", 320. He has 33-inch arms. I think it's like 33 and 1/8, somewhere in that range. He played both guard and center, but he only had 7 starts in college.
Yeah.
What I saw was he's solid in pass protection. He can move the interior. My notes, he can move the interior defensive lineman. Versatility can help him on the practice squad. And again, that's what we were talking about with Farniok. His avenue is we don't have a lot in the interior offensive line. When you are much deeper, and it's kind of funny to say deep at offensive tackle based on what happened last year, but we're deeper there now than we are in the interior. And he has the position flex, but he's super raw. I mean, he has 7 starts total in all of college. So you don't have a lot of tape to go off of. But that's what I saw. Interested to hear what you have to say about him.
That's true. I actually heard an interview that he had, and he kind of talked about this. And he just said Houston valued his versatility so much. He said he was a 4-year player, actually. He was the swing tackle as a true freshman. And he said he started 2 games as a tackle his freshman year. But
I didn't see it if he did.
I can exactly.
I'll take his word for it. I'll take his word for it.
Yeah. So then he said his sophomore and junior year, he kind of was the swing center guard. And then his senior year, that's when he got his 7 starts. I think it was like 4 at guard and 3 at center or vice versa. Just like you said, he moves well for a guy his size. He's a zone blocker. I don't think he's a power guy. He's one of those guys. If he can get his hands on the guy, can get him moving.
Right.
But at the same time, there were way too many times where if he was in space, he looked like a deer in the headlights. So like when he went to the second level, it was almost like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? And he would kind of just like touch a guy instead of blocking him. And I saw his running backs have to do a lot of work because when it was up to him to get to the second level, he didn't give them the block he should have gave them.
Right.
He has a great base, which is something you want from a center. His upper body needs a lot of work. I saw him set in his base on blocks, but I saw him get pushed back quite a bit. Now, that could be a combination of upper body or not using his length because he lets guys get into his chest too much, but he has that strong base where he doesn't really get pushed back. So those are coachable things, though. Those are coachable things. And outside of that, again, he has the versatility. According to him, he played all 5 positions, even though he only had 7 starts. And with a team like this, versatility is definitely the name of the game. I wish I could have saw him play tackle just to see if his feet were good enough to transition to that tackle spot. 6'3", 310 or whatever. Arms may be long enough, but I think he's going to have to be a guard. Unless that he may be able to get some center competition, but I see him more right guard. But I like him though.
I'm wondering if he came in game, like maybe entered a game with the tackle getting hurt, because I'm pretty sure he only had 7 starts.
Yeah,
and I know it was at guard and center, so I don't want to discredit him, say he's lying. He probably did enter the game at tackle at some point. I'll have to go back and look for it because I haven't seen it. I'd be interested to see how he panned out there. At 6'3", though, I can't imagine any teams are going to give him looks at offensive tackle in the NFL. It's just too short. Yeah. And 33-inch arms that'll suffice when you're inside. When you're outside, you really want those 34, 35-inch, freakishly long arms. But those guys don't come around a lot. So yeah, I think he has a chance to make the practice squad. I don't think he has any chance at all to make the starting 53.
Yeah, we have a lot of depth back there, and we have a lot of versatile guys too.
Right.
I mean, I guess you would call him a poor man's Brandon Knight, but I don't think that's enough to get him on the roster over a Farniok or McGovern, or I think we may still have Adam Redmond. I'm not sure.
We don't have Redmond anymore, but we do have Mitch Hyatt. So
that's a trigger name for my friend Jeff in the comments.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Clemson fan, and I've been talking about Mitch Hyatt for like 10 years now. Because he was a 4-year starter at Michigan, and then Clemson, and then he came to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So I always bring up Mitch Hyatt, but I love Mitch Hyatt's technique, but he needs a weight room desperately.
Yeah, I think Redmond is in Cincinnati or Chicago. Drawing a blank on which one. It's one of those 2 teams. He just signed like yesterday or the day before. It's like very recent. So yeah, he's not there anymore.
Based on the O-line coach, I would probably assume it's Cincinnati. Because don't they have our O-line coach? Or he had ties to that team? Yeah,
he's there, but I feel like it's Chicago. I'll have to look it up, but I feel like maybe it's Chicago. I don't know if he followed Andy Dalton there or not, but he's he's not available anymore. So yeah, I think he's a practice squad guy. Potentially, I don't think he's gonna have any chance to really make this 53.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short, Charlie. You guys put out great content over there. And I appreciate the Mendoza. We always love to have great discussion. I'm all about content more than names. So whenever we have a guest on, we're always going to try to have a good, knowledgeable dialogue and not turn into Skip and Shannon, where it's just us debating about stuff that makes no sense or throwing out a bunch of trigger phrases that the average fan would know and not stuff that actually happens in terms of statistics or scheme or actual what you see on the field. Eric Berger asked a question about any increase in practice squad players getting poached this year. I would say definitely yes. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I would think so, especially with this draft in general. This is the draft where scouts are going to make their name because there's so many players that opted out or had a reduced season. We look at a guy like Tyler Coyle, played 4 games this year, and it wasn't because he didn't get a chance to play, like from a ability standpoint, his team literally played 4 games this season. So some of the guys, there's just not a lot of film on or enough film. And when you have that, the COVID opt-outs or the injury opt-outs or guys that didn't play a full season, you don't really know what you have. So teams are going to draft players and then they're not going to be what they thought they'd be, or they're going to sign undrafted free agents. And again, they may not develop the way they thought. So I think there's going to be a lot of pulling from other teams' practice squads. I don't know if I'd say it's going to be a huge increase, but I would not be surprised at all if there was an increase there.
Right. I don't think we had a single guy other than was Joe Jackson on the practice squad, or did we just outright cut him?
I believe he was on the practice squad. I know Michael Jackson, they wanted to bring back to the practice squad, and he didn't make it. I think he signed with the Ravens, maybe.
Yeah, he didn't clear waivers. I remember that.
Yeah, he didn't clear waivers. So I don't think anybody got poached that I can remember aside from Joe Jackson. I think he's the only guy.
Maybe Rondell Carter, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. So Rondell went to the Colts, I believe. He's back in Dallas now, but
yeah. But other than those two, I don't remember getting guys poached from our practice squad. But looking at this year, with guys getting opportunities to play in preseason, if they try to put Francis Bernard back in the practice squad, I think you can say goodbye to him. We still have Luther Kirk on the practice squad, who we didn't get to see any of last year.
Yeah, he was an interesting name last offseason. Yeah. We have one guy left, right? The defensive lineman from Oregon, right?
We do. We have one guy left. We're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. The defensive tackle out of Oregon, Austin Faoli. This one was a complete head scratcher to me, Matt. I'll let you talk about him, see what you think, and then I'll hop in whatever you didn't touch base on.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. So he's not big. He's like 285-ish, maybe 290. He's actually pretty good in the run game. He's okay as a pass rusher, but he doesn't really offer a lot. I think he has balance issues. I noticed he fell on the ground quite a bit. I don't know if he gets tripped up.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Matt.
It's just weird when you watch him, like plays where he should not fall, he seems to fall down. Where I think he makes sense in Dallas is, and again, not 53, I'm talking maybe in the practice squad, is not as like a traditional 3 technique. I think he's a 5 technique. I think he's a guy, if you do go with the 3-4, he could be a 3-4 defensive end to eat up blocks and play the run game. He's not really special or at all. I mean, and to be quite honest, if he was, he wouldn't have been an undrafted free agent, right? Somebody would have snatched him up. His tape's okay. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he'll even make the practice squad, but if he did, I think he's a 5 technique is where I think he'll play in the NFL.
I have nothing else to add. When you said fall on the ground, that lets me know you watched him play.
Yes,
it was ridiculous how many times he was on the ground. It looked like Shaq flops in basketball, where it's like, how is he on the ground? Nothing happened that made him go on the ground. Yeah,
I watched quite a bit of Oregon tape, way more than I usually do. I'm from Atlanta, so I'm a Georgia. Well, actually, I'm from Texas, but I live in Atlanta, so I watch a lot of SEC football. And Javon Holland was one of my pet cats this year. I was hyping him up for months. And watching his 2018, 2019 tape, I started watching. Who else? While I'm watching, I might as well spend time looking at the rest of the defense in case there's anybody that jumps out.
Same thing I do.
That's how I found him. Truthfully, I didn't really know too much about him going into it. I kind of noticed as I watched other players in Oregon, and I noticed him here and there. I don't think he'll make the practice squad if I had to guess, but if so, that's the only chance he has.
He has no shot. Like, complete head scratcher. He's short. He has short arms. He's decent in the run game, but if we look at the blueprint they follow, he does not have the length or the strength that I've seen on tape to be able to generate separation. And like you said, he's on the ground way too much, like for no reason.
Yeah, it's not like he's getting cut or taking double teams. He just I don't know if it's a balance issue. I think that is what it is. He gets caught up on one leg quite a bit, going against some of the offensive linemen with longer arms, and I think he gets off balance, and then that's how he ends up on the ground. But it's weird. Like, when you watch tape, I don't want to exaggerate and make people think it's like 90% of the snaps, because it's nothing that extreme, but it's just more often than what you would expect.
If it's enough that you notice it.
Exactly.
And on a football field, that's a lot.
Right.
You don't normally notice guys on the ground, but with him you do. All right, Mendoza made this comment. random, but here's our first preseason game: Steelers undrafted free agent list. I'm sure it's gonna be a bunch of names we all know that we probably wish we would have gotten in. Starting off with Shakir Brown, definitely a name I like. Calvin Bundage, I'm familiar with the name, but not really. I see a couple names I'm familiar with on there.
Yeah. I don't know how much we're gonna do of poaching undrafted free agents. I do think practice squad poaching is gonna happen. I don't think we're gonna see a lot of that. I mean, there were tons of big names that were available, guys like Ardarius Washington, that was a fan favorite. He didn't fit at all what we have from the length size profile, but a lot of fans liked him. I know Nix and Spoonie were really big on him. Yeah, there was a lot of big names that went undrafted, and we weren't that aggressive on those guys. If you look at the list below, I mean, there's a kind of a common theme aside from Austin where they're big, long guys. So we definitely have a type. You know, some guys like blondes, brunettes, redheads, whatever. We like tall, lengthy guys. That's what we're going for.
Now, where I think the poaching will come into place at are guys from last year's draft who nobody got a chance to see in preseason.
Yes.
And somebody's going to still have their tape on Francis Bernard or Bradley or Nye or whoever you want to name, and they're going to get a couple of good snaps because we didn't see them last year, and somebody's going to take a shot on them. But like you said, I don't see a lot of poaching from this year's draft.
Right.
And then we don't know what the practice squad rules are going to be. Are they going to take it back to 16 again, or are they going to take it back down to 12?
I hope that they go with the extended, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that we're here in May and that hasn't been made clear. Like, there's still questions in the air and what's going to happen there. Right. One player that's kind of interesting when we're talking about poaching from practice squads, a guy that played in Dallas, offensive lineman, and played on the practice squad in Atlanta last year, and I bring him up solely because of the Dan Quinn connection. John Wetzel, you remember him? He was an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, from Ohio State.
Yeah, so he's actually on the Falcons practice squad, or at least was last year. So I don't know. He may be a name that, depending on how the offensive line group shakes out, that Quinn may say, like, hey, you guys already know him. He's in Atlanta. We can snatch him up potentially and bring him in if we need to. But again, keep in mind, when you're doing that, you have to elevate them to the 53-man roster. You can't bring them from their practice squad to yours. Right. So you'd think there'd have to be a lot of injuries for a move like that to happen. Looking at the rest of the list, I don't really see anybody else that jumps out. They have Kyle Laletta, Kurt Benkert are a couple names that are notable, but again, I don't think there's really anybody there. There's a couple practice squad players from last year, like to your point, that we just didn't get to see a lot, that somebody's going to be interested in. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas, took a flyer on somebody. Maybe if there's an outside cornerback available or a slot cornerback, if they think that there's something different than what we have in our current room there. Yeah. Wide receiver, I think we're pretty good on. I don't think there's any chance there. Running back, maybe, but I think we're pretty set on the three that we have. Quarterback, I don't think there's any practice squad quarterbacks you're going to look at over what we have. Safety, maybe, potentially, depending on what happens injury-wise, but I think we're probably pretty set there too. So I don't know how active we're going to be, truthfully, going after that, because there's not a lot of positions where I think there's better players on practice squads than what we have currently, but you never know as the season progresses.
Yeah. Now, I know you're an hour ahead of me, but let me just ask you these questions about guys on the team. I'm interested in your thoughts on it.
Okay.
You talk about you think we're pretty set at safety.
Yes.
What do you think about Jaron Curse?
I saw Eric's comment. I like Jaron Curse a lot. So Curse has the George Edwards connection. Edwards was his defensive coordinator in 2019 and 2018. He's 6'4", so again, he fits that size profile that we like. He's pretty good against the run, and he's actually better in coverage than a lot of people think, because usually when you have like a 6'4" guy, you're thinking he's going to struggle against twitchy wide receivers. But I actually did not like it all the way Detroit used him last year. I like the way that Minnesota used him a lot more the year before. I don't know that he's a long-term starting free safety, but I think he's the guy that may get the nod if KZ starts out on the PUP list potentially. I like him a lot in the big nickel is where I love him at. That's where I think he's – I saw Eric's comment, and I knew that people were going to get triggered when I said that. Yeah. I just mean compared to undrafted free agents. So just to be clear, undrafted free agents or practice squad players, I don't think there's better guys available than what we have as our top four right now. I'm not saying that I would not like to improve that. Just to be clear there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I like Hurst quite a bit. I feel like a lot of fans don't really give him any love and attention because he's not a big name. You know, they had Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris, and everybody was all about them. Rightfully so. They're great players. But he was kind of the forgotten man from a fan perspective. He did have an off-the-field issue in 2019, I want to say. He got arrested with a gun or something like that. I don't know exactly what the details were there, but I liked him coming out of Clemson, and I think he's a massive, massive improvement over Darian Thompson when you're looking at like safety 3. So I feel better there than I did going into last year.
Yeah, my number one team is Clemson, so I watched every snap he played.
Okay.
He was awesome at free safety. He's a free safety. He's a better free than strong.
Right.
And when you said that,
and that's where Detroit played him. That's where I'm like, I didn't really like the way he was used.
Yeah, Detroit played him as a strong because they saw 6'4", 220, think he's that type of guy. No. You let him cover. His skill set is covering and using his length and playing on the ball. I watched every snap he played in Minnesota. They played him at free safety. They played him at big nickel. They played him at wheel linebacker. He played most of his snaps at that big nickel spot. And I talk about big nickel a lot on here because I just see Kurtz coming in and just playing that same role like he did in Minnesota.
Right.
I think he's going to come in and make some noise, and a lot of people are going to be surprised by him.
He had an interception against Dak. It was a Hail Mary situation, but yeah, I mean, his size comes into play. And if you watch him, even the Detroit film, although I didn't like the way he was used, he still played pretty well.
He did,
considering he was out of position. So I like him quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, and Eric Berger asked a question about Vasher, J. Lou, the free safety.
So I'm
We're on
going
the
back
same
and forth on
page.
this
You
one.
want me to say it first?
Yeah, let's hear what you have to say.
Again, I'm a huge college guy. I watched him shut down every receiver he played against in college at Michigan. 2-time All-American. The kid knows how to cover on the outside. He's a much better play on the guy's hip and bump and release guy than he is in space. I mean, he showed us that at slot. We put him at slot because Richard doesn't like small corners on the outside. Just plain and simple. I think going back to his rookie year when he played more outside than inside and he was playing top receivers, he played Devontae Adams very well until that last drive where for some reason our coaches let them isolate a rookie against a top 5 receiver and just go to work. Outside of that, he played very well as an outside corner. And then Richard came in. Put him back where he's good at. Don't play around with him. He's never played safety. Let him do what he does.
So here, I'll throw this out there for Eric. So I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about what Dan Quinn's done with the safety group. He took Ricardo Allen, a cornerback in college, and converted him to safety, and he took DeMonte Casey, a cornerback, and converted him to safety. So there is that precedence that it could happen. My concern isn't necessarily if he could play free safety. It's that if he's not playing at the inside cornerback position, are you going to play a 6'4" Nashawn Wright at slot? Probably not. He struggles against quick, twitchy wide receivers. Reggie Robinson, we haven't seen play at the NFL level at cornerback, so we don't really know what he can do there. If we had signed like a Casey Hayward, I'd be way more open to this idea. But because of what we have, like if J. Lou goes down or you have to play him at a different position, you're looking at Anthony Brown as your slot cornerback. That's the issue. That's the issue that I have there. I'm okay with Brown. I think a lot of fans are a lot harder on him than I think is justified. I don't think he's a great cornerback, but he gives, some versatility. He's fast and he's okay. You don't want him to have to start, but he can play if needed. But I don't think I want Brown long-term as my slot corner. And that's my concern if I move J. Lou is who's going to play there. Now, of course, there's still free agents you could sign. Like you could go get a Steven Nelson or somebody like that. Mm-hmm. But we haven't made any moves towards getting one yet. I don't know why we should believe that we're going to, unless training camp comes and, we see the cornerbacks just getting toasted all camp, then maybe we make a move at that point. I'd be more interested in making a trade for like a CJ Jackson or somebody like that from New England, although I don't know if you're able to really get him, but I would love him here in Dallas. But I think we're going to stick with the cornerbacks as is and let them just compete against each other. So I'm not against him playing free safety in theory until you add all the other elements. And I'm like, I just don't think it's going to happen.
I am. I would honestly rather see Brown play free safety than Lewis, honestly.
Okay.
I think Lewis is a better corner. I think if you're going to sacrifice a corner to go to safety, just go with Brown. I think he's better.
I don't think he plays like a safety, though. Like, I just can't see. I mean, if you're playing him as single deep, he has the athleticism, but I don't think he's an incredible tackler.
Oh,
he's
no.
had injury issues. So I'm like, I don't think he doesn't play like a safety. Lewis, I get why people are like, I could see him being a safety. I think he's going to stick at cornerback. We don't have a lot of veteran leadership. I don't think it's likely he'd be moved.
Oh, I mean, I agree. I don't think he plays like a safety either, but if I had to choose between which one I'd rather give up at corner, I'd rather give up Brown.
Right.
But I would rather not see either of them go back there. And I see we got a lot of people throwing at AB support.
Yeah, AB, for whatever reason in our fan base, he's the Connor Williams of defense where fans just hate him. No matter what he does, fans are like, he's got to go. I'm like, he's not great, but he's not what fans make him out to be.
I think he struggles from not being in the right scheme. I don't think he's a bad player because he showed us his rookie year. He can be a quality corner in this league. I think when Rashard came in and there was all this confusion about what we're going to do, I think he was one of those guys who suffered from it.
Right.
And they didn't put him what you would expect a coach to do, to put players in the best position to take advantage of their skill set. I don't think he did that. And I think that hurt him quite a bit that year. And I just don't think he's a slot guy either. I think he's better outside than in the slot. But again, I think Lewis is better at both spots than him. But that's not saying Brown's awful. I just think maybe this scheme will work better for him. I don't know, but I would rather not lose Lewis as a corner.
So XXO show said, put Neal at strong safety, Wilson at free safety until Casey comes back if we don't sign someone else. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are there. Is that what you would do if you were running the defense?
If I was running the defense, I would play Curse at free safety.
Me too. Same.
Wilson can do it, but he's not very good at it. And a lot of fans don't like to hear that because Wilson is like the underdog Jesus for the team, and he walks on water and he does no wrong. Wilson had a lot of bad free safety snaps. And again, I'm a college guy. I watched him at A&M, and my guy Jeff will attest to this. I thought Wilson was the worst safety to come out of the draft that year because I made the mistake of the 3 games I watched him play were Clemson, LSU, and Ole Miss. And they destroyed him. They took turns on him in those 3 games when he played more of a free safety look.
Right.
So going back to college, he's not a good free safety. He needs to play at the strong / nickel type spot. And Curse, I've seen him do it. When
see, I'm with Eric Berger. Eric said, I'd rather have Izzy play over Wilson at free. I don't want Wilson at free safety at all.
I don't either.
At all. I'm keeping him at strong safety. I'd rather play Keanu Neal at free safety. If that's the 2 that I'm going with, I'd rather have Neal at free safety. I think Neal gets kind of lumped in as he's his box safety, and I mean he is. That's what he does. But he played some free safety because they had Ricardo Allen at strong safety at some point. I like Israel Mukwame. That was one of my favorite draft picks of the class. Actually, back in March, I tweeted I was like, this is a guy that fits our profile. He makes so much sense. So when we drafted him, I was excited. And he played, I think it was 32% of his snaps last year at safety. So the transition's already started with him. He's not a raw project where he has, he's a fish out of water. He's actually done it in SEC at a pretty high level. His draft stock kind of fell. He was highly regarded, more like a 3rd round pick going into the season. He battled a hamstring issue. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree, Charlie. I'd rather have Neal at free safety if that's the combo I'm going with.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Izzy, man. I'm really excited about that draft pick. I know a lot of people are talking about, if he's going to make the roster back when we had Reggie Robinson as safety. And I was like, if that's the 2, I'm going with Izzy over Robinson. I like Izzy that much and what he's able to do. He's a big guy, but he's able to make plays on the ball. He's a pretty good tackler. And it's kind of interesting when people talked about JC Horn, kind of going off on a tangent right here. They were like, Horn shut down Pitts. I'm like, he only lined up on him 7 snaps the entire game, and they only threw at him 3 times. And one of the times he was killed on a whip route, and he mugged him. And the only reason it wasn't completed for a big gain is because Trask missed the throw, overthrew, and he tried to one-hand it. But he was beaten pretty badly. But I bring it up because that matchup, they chose Mukuamu over Horn one-on-one against him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting to throw that out there.
Yeah. I love Mukuamu 2019. His 2019 tape was great.
Yeah. Well, as a Georgia fan, I cringed because Jake Fromm threw 3 passes. He picked them off.
Yep.
And only one of them was a ball that kind of he lucked into. The other 2, he broke on the ball.
He made plays.
One of them he made a diving catch, and one of them he jumped. I think it was a hitch or a curl route and took it to the house for a pick 6. So, and if you watch his film, obviously I'm not talking about highlight tapes, but if you watch his highlight tape, you see when he's making plays on the ball, he's not a guy that's just in the right place at the right time. He's actually going after jumping the route and making a play. Yeah. So the thought of having that 6'4" size, pretty decent speed, good tackler, developing at a safety is exciting. I don't think he's going to start day one, but I'm intrigued with that.
Yeah, and I like him. I know somebody said something about who liked him. I missed the comment.
It was Barry Church.
Barry Church rated about how fluid he is. I watched him a lot in college. He looks better like coming downhill and changing directions than he does having to open his hips up. If he keeps it in the pocket and he's moving back and coming in, he looks good. But when he has to turn and open his hips, he looks awful. And that's why I don't think he can play corner in this scheme, because he has a problem opening his hips. But if he can keep it tight, like at that safety spot or some type of zone nickel, I think he'll be good.
It's kind of interesting. I'll just throw it out there for the people watching. One of my good friends, we played together in high school, and he's a defensive back guru now. He works out. Great follow if you want to follow him. His name is IamOD3 on Twitter. He trains Tyrann Mathieu, Jalen Ramsey, J.C. Horn. He worked out with Javon Holland. He just flew to LSU to work out with Derek Stingley. He's legit. He trained Izzy and Nahshon Wright both heading into the draft. In his opinion, he thinks Nahshon Wright is not as good as Izzy overall. He thinks Izzy is a better prospect, which, just throwing it out there, that's a guy that I have a lot of respect for, and that's his opinion. He said that both of them struggle with quick, twitchy guys, but he thinks Izzy is better against twitchy guys than Wright. But again, Wright's super raw. He's a wide receiver learning how to play cornerback, so it's kind of to be expected, but just want to throw that tidbit out there.
And even with that, the ball skills aren't that vastly different in terms of Mukuamu and Wright. Right. And I want him to be our safety because I can't wait to hear Cowboys fans butcher his name for years. We need a draft guide solely for name pronunciations, because there's a lot of guys that fans don't know a lot about, and hearing them say it is it's entertaining. So this draft in particular, this was like the phonetics Olympics of names. Yes, especially in the draft. Yeah. All right. So does anybody have any other questions before we get out of here? Professor O, if not, thank you, man. You gave us about an hour and a half of great knowledge, almost 2 hours of great knowledge. I know you got the family thing going on. I know you got the thing going on with your wife, and again, congratulations on that. And thank you. Yeah, make sure you post some pictures and Cowboys blanket on the child. She's having a C-section Monday, so it'll definitely be the 24th. So I got 4 days to go. So you probably won't hear from me for the next couple of weeks. Oh yeah, definitely. Too much, but I'll definitely post some pictures and keep people updated how the delivery goes. All right, well, definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us. Like you said, you're a regular on Star Gang, and I know they go live nonstop. Nick's is probably about to go live in 20 minutes and be on. Man, long marathons. So I feel like it was the third night of the draft. It was like Nick's was on for 12 hours. 12 hours. I joined for 7 hours of this. It was like 4 a.m. my time, and I'm like, all right, guys, I gotta go. Yeah. I kept giving all the signals possible, you know how they go. So I'm trying to give some signals, and it was always just like, well, let's just get one more question. We'll wrap this up, and then more questions came, and it was fun. I was having a great time. So I was like, let's go. I'll sleep later. I'll figure this out. Yeah. So this is probably really a break. Yeah, this is nothing for me. This is like 2 hours. Well, we're first quarter right now. 2 hours and 34 minutes. It's nothing. Yeah. All right. So before we let you go, let the people know where they can find you at, so they can see a picture of the new addition to the family and find out about all the Cowboys news and notes that you talk about.
Right. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Professor O_NFL. I'm on Star Gang on Wednesday evenings. They usually go live at 8 p.m. Central, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Again, you never know. Sometimes we're out in an hour and a half. Sometimes it's 5 and 6 hours. Sometimes they go live on the weekends. I enjoy getting out there. The Cowboys YouTube community is amazing. So many great podcasters. It's kind of tough too, because sometimes on like a Tuesday or Wednesday night, I'm getting like 5 or 6 notifications from people that I subscribe to, and I'm trying to like bounce around and listen to a little bit of each person. If you haven't followed XXO Show, they have great content. Eric Berger and Charlie are great. I mean, there's so many good people. Vach, obviously, always well regarded for his draft breakdowns, and then Boss Cowboy, Tuck, Sid. There's just so flow. I mean, there's so many people that it can be hard to keep up with. But and I didn't even name some of the big ones, right? Like Raw and guys like that, and Skywalker Steel, and some of those. There's just so many people that I love our community, because you get big versatility from opinions. You don't go on a show and hear everybody say the same thing. Like we're all like, I'm high on this guy, and then like the talk this week amongst the community is Cox a safety or not? And it's been all over the internet. It's been fun watching that, hearing different people chime in. So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Longtime fan of yours too. I know we've been in Facebook groups together for the longest time. Both of us were Team Dak, fighting the good fight before everybody else jumped in. So I'm glad that we won that battle. Now I just need to get Rowdy out of here in the Seafoam green pants, and my checklists are done.
Okay.
Done.
That's the bucket list, huh?
That's the bucket list. Get Rowdy out of here, or at least change his number. Yeah, you probably know the story, but real quick for those that don't. In 2001 training camp, Robert Kraft was riding on a golf cart, and a fan was waving him down saying, "Hey, can we change our mascot's number? He's 00. We've never won a Super Bowl." And Kraft said, "That's a good point." You can find it on YouTube. They changed his number that offseason before the season started, and they won their first Super Bowl that year.
Wow.
Just saying, maybe the mascot's bad luck, maybe not. I'm more so kidding when I say that stuff, but the Seafoam green pants, that's a sticking point for me. They got to go.
Hey, we need every edge we can get to that next Super Bowl. So
yeah, change it. Just make him go from 00 to number 6. We'll win.
Right, exactly. Or they can bring the 9 back, since everybody wants it back.
Whatever, man. Yeah, just change it. Whatever. Make him 88, 22, one of the retired numbers. I don't care.
Exactly, yeah. That should be our next campaign.
Yeah, let's do that. So,
right.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. I had a lot of fun tonight. I'm sorry I joined late. I would have loved to be on with Lambo, another great guy, content-wise. And, yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully you'll have me back. If you are, I'd love to join. Definitely.
We got a long off season to go with a lot of content. And like I said before, I love having great discussions like this with guys that I know watch the tape and really can push me and know what they're talking about, can back it up. So again, appreciate you, man. All right, so guys,
got another name on the petition to get Rowdy removed. I kind of feel bad for the guy that plays that guy. He's probably on Twitter like, why am I trending? What's going on?
I've actually met the guy before a couple times.
I'm sure he's a great guy. I don't have anything against him. It's just his character. Give him a different mascot. I don't care.
Yeah. And he lets you know he's the official Rowdy, though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's one of those type of guys.
You know Benny the Bull? I looked it up. I was just curious, like what Rowdy makes. Benny the Bull, the Bulls mascot, dude makes $200,000 a year.
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys live anywhere where there's a mascot training academy or if they even have those, but maybe look into that. It might be a nice pay increase for all of you guys out there. It might be fun too. He charges like $2,000 an hour for weddings and corporate events and all that stuff.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Mendoza, as always. Now, Mo, I don't do the after parties. I'm sorry. I leave that to start game. I give you 2 hours, and then I'm out.
Right.
But if they go live and they need another person, I may hop in with them. But I'm just not the after party type guy. As much as I love doing this and talking about content, I got to take a break. So before we go, make sure you guys find me on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Bluff City Cowboys, Twitter, Bluff Cowboys, Instagram, Bluff City Cowboys. My co-host Lambo, you can find him at Everything Cowboys. Y'all, be sure to tune in every Thursday, 7:30 Central Standard Time for the Cowboy Zone. We're going to bring you some great guests, some great content, and we're going to talk all things Dallas Cowboys. Once again, I appreciate all you guys for all the great comments, all the great questions. You guys really fuel the show and everything we do. So please make sure you continue to support myself, support Lambo, and support Professor O. Taking a few seconds to hit that button means the world to all of us because we're all about getting those analytics right. So until next week, I'm Marcus. This is Professor O, and I'll see you guys. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.